So, no, I thought that they have to, they close the school now every time. I can't believe how much. I can't believe it. That's a good thing.
Better than nothing.
Well, right. When the slow season came, they didn't.
There is.
No, I mean like during the recession.
Yeah.
Even that was.
They
laid.
I wasn't here, but I watched my job that they fired or let go all 8 people. Day. They told me to go tell them and come back and tell me how it went.
You're looking for an agenda, sir? Yeah. All right, I can grab
Morning.
So Bob package it out.
Any issue? You better be really nervous. I would be. I don't know if I'd have been able to sleep. I mean, you got all kinds of stuff.
I'm not because I asked him how it is concerned.
Well, I was protecting my turn. No. I'll say, I don't know, I didn't even look at it. She's going to be an engineer. You know what they did? You know what they did for my first one? I didn't get the staff because I wasn't going to go. They said, you had secret weapons. So, yeah, Tim had hair when he started the show. Oh my God. Don't let anybody practice. You're going to let anybody practice it. You're going to let anybody practice this guy.
Full house.
I like it. It makes me look easy. My wife said I should get preparation or that yeah. That's for the other one, isn't it? That's the other one. That's the green one. Oh, you're going full. You're going full.
I left my cell phones at home today.
Did you send anything in writing? Did you send anything in writing? You always been
Here's your zombie first sitting up.
Good morning. I'm pleased to see that this meeting is so popular this morning. Welcome to the Wang County Technical Review Committee meeting for April 6, 2022. We have a fairly large agenda this morning, and we have a number of continuances to address at the beginning of the meeting. We'd like to remind everyone that we're all friends and neighbors, and we'd like to remain that way. And we have a bailiff to help us if some of us decide otherwise. So I appreciate everyone's civility and professionalism this morning. This is not a public hearing. This is an administrative meeting of the Wang County Planning Department. If you came to speak on a particular item, there will be an opportunity to ask questions about technical compliance with the Land Development Code or the Comprehensive Plan during each presentation. So appreciate your patience. Do we have any other announcements this morning? Then we'll consider the minutes from March 16th, 2022. Do we have any adjustments to those minutes?
I don't see any adjustments. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion we approve the March 16th TRC minutes as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed likewise? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. We'll move right into project review. And as I mentioned, we have a number of continuances. We'll take those individually. The first is the Bluffs at Juniper. We have a request to continue to April 20, 2022 at 8:30 a.m. in this location.
Motion to continue.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? This item is continued to April 20, 2022. Number 3, the watercolor PUD amendment for beach ADA access. We have a request to continue to April 20, 2022 at 8:30 a.m. in this location. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to April 20, 2022. Number 4, the Destin Land Connection. We have a similar request to continue to the April 20th, 2022 TRC meeting at 8:30 a.m. in this location. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to the April 20th, 2022 TRC meeting. Number 5, Cypress Heights. We have a request to continue to the April 20, 2022 meeting at 8:30 a.m. in this location. Can we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to the April 20, 2022 TRC meeting. Number 6, the Retreat at the Bay PUD, request to continue to the May 4th, 2022 TRC meeting at 8:30 a.m. in this location. Can we have a motion at the dais?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to the May 4th, 2022 meeting. Moving to number 7, the K-Bar Small Scale Amendment. This is a request to continue to the May 4th, 2022 TRC meeting at 8:30 a.m. in this location. Can we have a motion? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to the May 4th, 2022 TRC meeting. Number 8, the Dune Allen Second Edition, Lots 7 and 8 replat, request to continue to the May 4th, 2022 TRC meeting at 8:30 a.m. in this location. Can we have a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to the May 4th, 2022 TRC meeting date. Number 9, the Club Drive Lot 3326 replat, request to continue to the May 4th, 2022 TRC meeting at 8:30 a.m. in this location. Do we have a motion at the dais?
Motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to May 4th, 2022 at 8:30 a.m. in this location. And one final continuance this morning, number 10, the Seascape Resort DRI amendment, request to continue to the May 4th, 2022 TRC meeting at 8:30 a.m. in this location. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to the May 4th, 2022 TRC meeting date. And that will move us to item number 11. This is the Bishop Landing PUD. It's a major development. Kelly Schultz. Kelly, introduce it for us.
Yes, sir, thank you. Again, this is a major development application that's submitted by Jenkins Engineering on behalf of BT Florida LLC, requesting to develop 84 single-family homes and 103 townhomes, a community park, a pavilion, as a planned unit development. The project site is 103.8 acres with future land use of, actually, there's several future land uses: residential, mixed use, and conservation residential. The zoning districts include neighborhood infill, small neighborhood, and conservation residential 2-to-1. The property is located in District 5. It's located on the eastern side of Bishop Talbot Road and is 0.6 of a mile down from South Church Street on the west side. The parcel identification numbers are included in your staff report. One item to note is that the plans, there was a new set of plans that were submitted that reduced the density from 208 dwelling units to the current number of 187, which is the breakdown that I just mentioned in the report. Since packets went out, we did receive an updated staff report from Public Works. Those of you with digital copies that review the packets digitally, you have that in your packet. And those who use paper, I provided a paper copy. Basically, Public Works no longer has any comments. Also, since your staff reports went out, we've received public comments for the record from five property owners. Some of those have already been uploaded into your packets, from Gretchen Peters and Barry Walsh, who just generally their concerns related to the amount of density, the clustering, and impacts to the natural environment. You have an email from it's from Branton Kelly Marshall. We need to enter that one into public record. And again, concerns, they had a number of questions, which we can reach out to them with trying to get answers to these questions. Do we need to read these out loud, Mr. Carpenter?
I don't know that we do.
Okay, all right. And then we also have an email from Ms. Joyce Lanning. And I don't know that I printed it out, but I also have, oh yeah, yes I did, from Ms. Margaret Landry.
Yes, I think we have all of those.
Okay, fantastic. And prior communications have been included in your packets. So I don't know if anyone has any questions for me. If not, I know that the applicant is available for questions.
I know we got a number of comments outstanding on this particular application, which we can come back to. I think we can hear from the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Jamie Eubanks, C-U-B-A-N-K-S, with Jenkins Engineering. Thank you, Kelly, for detailing what's gone on since then. Since the last time we've been at this particular hearing, we've worked with the developer. They listened to some of the concerns that came out of that meeting. As Kelly mentioned, we did reduce the density by another 21 units. So in this particular case, we're looking at a density of just over, I believe it's 1.87 units an acre across the nearly 105 acres. I do continually see the comment about clustering the density to the north end of the site. I do just want to point out that, this is a developer that does specialize in urban development, and we do have 17 and a half acres of small neighborhood. We could potentially, without any PUD or any clustering or anything else, put nearly the entire density within that small neighborhood area. This is a developer that's certainly adept at doing that. So I don't believe we're asking for anything that is not allowed. This PUD doesn't include any variances. We've increased the stormwater. We've added stormwater swales along Bishop Tolbert Road. We've reduced the density. I believe this developer has gone out of their way to work with the community, and I believe we have a very sound, very good project. With regards to the outstanding comments, Kelly did mention we did receive Public Works approval. I believe the remaining comments were from environmental and floodplain, and I don't want to speak for Haley, but I believe we have worked those items out. And then we have a meeting scheduled for next week with mosquito control to certainly be a good neighbor with them. But I believe we have addressed nearly the vast majority and certainly all the significant items. So with that, I'll just be happy to take any questions. I'm here, the developers are here.
I know there were a number of mosquito control comments.
Yeah, we had some engineering issues that we had to get a new engineer on board. We're using the new ICPR model with the new drainage and everything. As he said, we've got a meeting set up, I believe, next Monday at 10 o'clock with them to get with the engineers and everybody together. The rerouting of the mosquito control ditches is a big concern of ours. It was briefly touched on about a year ago, but nothing was finalized. So the discharge of the ditches and moving of the ditches is a big concern of ours. So we did have to have some engineering work done that we've been working on. That's one reason we didn't have the comments in there, because we had to get everything together to put comments in there. I believe there's some other issues that are going to come up with relocating more mosquito control ditches. And we'll see as this proceeds on today how that works out.
Okay, yeah, I have a meeting scheduled.
Scheduled Monday at 10 a.m.
Okay. And I see we got clearance from Public Works on their outstanding comments. Sammy, your comments look, the remaining comments look like your standard list of things that we put into the development order each time.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the engineering comments have been addressed as well. That letter was sent in yesterday, so I don't believe it made it to staff report, but we've, oh, yes, it has.
Yeah, you may.
Right, revised 329, okay. Yes, sir, we're good.
Yes, planning comments and environmental comments, I guess, are the outstanding comments. Do we think we've addressed all of those planning comments?
I do, Mr. Chairman. I know there was a typo here and there on a couple of them. For example, we've already provided the draft ordinance. I think that was just an error and omission. So I believe we have, and we do.
Well, we'll take just a moment and see if we have any questions from any members of the public about technical compliance. Thank you, Jamie. We'll give you an opportunity to come back up here in just a moment. Anyone here today wishing to ask a technical compliance question regarding land development code or comprehensive plan? Yes, ma'am. If you'd come to the podium and state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Barbara Morano, Morano. Good morning, Mr. Carpenter, and good morning, committee members. I just want to take this opportunity to thank Kelly Schultz for her help on this project. She's been excellent working with the neighborhood. At the last TRC meeting, South Walton Community Council shared that we have come to realize that Bishop Tolbert Road is a private road. Mrs. Tolbert had her documentation, but in order to ensure that her material had standing, the family consulted an attorney. A copy of that determination that the road is indeed a private road has been sent electronically to the Director of Planning, Kelly Schultz, and Attorney Steve Hall. Am I correct in assuming that the email was received?
I don't know if it is yet or not. When did you send it?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Mac.
Did you send it?
Well, that was sent by Mr. Terrell Arlene electronically. If you do not have it, Mrs. Tolbert will be following me with and giving you a copy. So from what I'm hearing, you did not receive it then.
We'll look forward to seeing that information.
Okay, she will follow. Well, I'm going to state some things from the letter, and the conclusion of that opinion by Attorney Terrell Arlene is as follows, and I'm going to quote, "To conclude, the county cannot legally claim that there is a right-of-way along Bishop Tolbert Road that the PUD may utilize to gain access to the site of the proposed project. I urge you and other Walton County employees to immediately cease claiming otherwise," unquote. This is in the you will get this in a few minutes. South Walton Community Council believes this is a property rights issue for Mrs. Tolbert and her husband, Captain Joe Staus. They own 33 feet of Bishop Tolbert Road. Therefore, it appears that Bishop Tolbert Road cannot be used for the development, and this DO would need to be withdrawn and a new plan submitted. Mrs. Tolbert will follow me and give you that copy. All right?
Let me just ask a question. Are you suggesting that the county cannot open a road on a government patent easement?
I'm suggesting that this letter needs to be read and put in the record. I'm sorry you did not get it electronically. That was our understanding. Everything is going to be based on that road.
To receive it.
Okay, thank you. Terry?
Has the applicant been provided this information?
He's going to be right now. Everyone's going to be right now. Okay. Terry, this is
Hi,
Good
I'm
morning.
Terry Tolbert,
Spell your last name for the record, please.
Tolbert, just like the road. Yes, and I'm going to keep one for a moment.
Wait a minute, Terry, let me make sure.
Okay.
Is this?
Yeah, if you've got them, sure.
Okay. I'm not going to bore you guys and try to read this whole thing. I'm just going to refer to the last page, actually. It wasn't just our attorney that came up with this conclusion. I knew for decades, Mr. Bishop knew, it was common knowledge that it was not a county road, it was a public road. So, I have plenty of research that backs that up, but I'm not a technical person, so we sent the information we had, our research, to the state. I'm sure you guys are aware that portions of the road are bordered by Point Washington, Topsail Hill State Forest. So to get clarity on this issue, we provided the DEP with our research. On March 24th, 2022, an employee of the Bureau of Surveying and Mapping sent an email agreeing with our opinion. He stated that Scott Woolham, who's the director, asked that I review the information that was provided regarding the validity of the claim of right-of-way for Bishop Talbot Road. Based upon the legal description in the dedication, deed book 4, I don't think I have to read the pages, all that, there is no easement recorded in this book. There is no easement dedication along the north-south section line common to sections 27 and 28, Township 2 South, Range 20 West. There were 3 aliquot parts of section 28 that actually, and they plotted that out, that actually Charles Cessna owned. But
Excuse me, are you reading from the letter you passed us?
just the last little piece, but I will not, basically, the Forestry Department, the DEP, the state surveyors and mappers, Mapping Bureau agree with us. That's their finding. So there is no legal right-of-way on Bishop Talbot Road. I'll just be brief and not go on any further. You can read this, but do you have any questions about that?
I have lots of questions about it, but I don't think we can resolve them here this morning.
Okay.
We appreciate you bringing this to our attention and sharing this with us. We will enter it into the record for this particular application and have our legal staff review it.
Okay. Yeah, I would be interested to know if you plan to proceed with this new information.
This information yet does not stop this application.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to let you
I don't think we
know.
will be moving forward with the application until we resolve this, because I agree this is an important part of the proposed development. It's an important improvement for the county if it gets made, because it would certainly improve transportation in this particular neighborhood. But we'll take your information under advisement. And thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to ask a question or make a comment on this particular application? Yes, sir.
Joe Strauss, STROUSC, 735 Bishop Talbot, I live there. What I was going to address today, Mr. Mitchell pretty much, I think he's going to be addressing that as well. We've obtained an environmentalist to Dan Garlick and Dan Garlick Environmentals out of Apalachicola. And he wrote just a preliminary report, but he's going to be submitting a report to you in the real near future. But he sent me a preliminary of just what you're going to be seeing from him. And there's a lot of engineering questions that he has and I have regarding the drainage of the water and the storage. Now, this also, a lot of the Kano estates feel the same way about this. So the ones that couldn't be here, I'm kind of throwing this in there for them too, because they're in the same boat. Regarding the drainage in the water, rendered by needs to be rendered by a qualified engineer. We would like to have some sort of third party to kind of oversee, so that both of us aren't paying to get the answer we want, and we can have something to that effect if it comes to that. That dealing with the on-site, and I suspect that dealing with the on-site stormwater management is going to be a nightmare. Either a lot of water is predicted to leave the site, or the site itself is going to become very wet due to the hydraulic static levels created or induced. I see Talbot Road and Churchill Bayou being affected by flooding the most. And then also, according to the ERP and the county Argus map, Bishop Talbot is the Bishop and our property is contiguous with those wetlands. So any impact to those is going to affect us greatly. There again, it's going to be detrimental for the bayou and the property owners around on that side too, as far as now we're all going to be flooded. So they don't seem to think that at this point, and you'll see in his report, with what they have proposed for mitigating that water, could actually be worse. But that is a report that's coming to you. Mr. Mitchell, with what he just said earlier, I think he's going to be addressing some of that too as well, with their meeting on Monday. So that's about it for me.
Thank you. I would encourage you to get the report to us as quickly as possible for everybody's benefit. Yes, sir.
And I apologize for that. Last time I was here, you asked me, what's the difference in a PUD? What the difference between PUDs are. You said, well, what's Seaside? What about watercolors? What about Sandestin? And you're right. Those are 100% of what the PUD should be. They impacted no existing community whatsoever that was already there. We've established a community. We've established a way of living down there, and this does not fit. It will be detrimental to all of our properties and all of our property values. And the density is insane.
This development will get a public hearing before Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners once it reaches that opportunity. Do we have anyone else that wishes to ask a technical question? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Landry.
I think it's not going to be any surprise. Margaret Landry, Landry, that I'm going to talk about the density right on the bay. It's just too much density. We've got restore funds and all kinds of grant money that go into cleaning out the bay, and then you're going to push this density up on the bay. I don't think that all those acreage, and I believe they knew that when they bought this property. From the Zillow thing, it says private road with low density. So that's what they purchased. This is the advertisement. And generally, real estate agents will want to beef up the density as opposed to lower the density. And this is what it says. Private road with low density, lot dimension is not exact, buyer to verify. So if anybody wants copies of that, I have that. But I just think that I know there is just too much density on the bay. It's all going to sheet towards the bay. Everything that they put on their yard or lawns or driveways, so.
Would you agree that that particular real estate ad's a little bit different than the ones we've talked about previously where they were advertised with zoning change?
Yes. Just a tad. Well, that's my point, is that generally you see those, and this one is not. This one says private road and low density, an abundance of nature and wildlife. And what they're going to do is impact that.
I would suggest this one is much more accurate than the other ones we've discussed.
Agreed.
But I understand. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Do you want copies of this?
You're welcome to provide them to us if you'd like to. Anyone else wishing to ask a technical question? Yes, sir.
How's it going? My name is Jonathan Bozeman, Bozeman. I own property at 122 Bishop Talbot Road. My property line goes out almost halfway to Bishop Talbot out in the middle of the road. And if y'all, fill in the ditches and if y'all put a road, that's my property. How does that work?
Well, if there's a government patent easement across 33 feet of the end of your property, the county has the right to utilize that for access and utilities, and that includes stormwater. It may also include parking as part of a component of a roadway.
Okay.
But that's, it's our understanding that the county is the portion of the public that's in charge of whether or not those easements get used for a public purpose.
All right. I don't know if y'all can answer. Do I pay property taxes on that?
Typically, the property appraiser, if there's a roadway there, they're not going to assess you for the roadway.
Okay.
But that's a question for the property appraiser, and it's a good argument to make.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anyone else with a technical question? Is it a technical question, ma'am? Yes, ma'am, if you'd like to come forward.
Morning. Jelena Parmley, last name Parmely. In my research, I'm just trying to understand what a PUD is. It's my understanding that it is supposed to offer a unique design characteristics resulting in significant public benefit. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, I think you're reading from the code.
Okay. I just have it printed out. It doesn't say where it's from, so that's good to know. My comment is that on the the February 2nd meeting with Adam Brock, I quote that he states that the wedding venue is an attempt to satisfy the commercial requirement, and I'll be very frank, I'm a blunt guy. I find the commercial requirement a little bit ridiculous on this property specifically, but it's code that I've got to satisfy. But I believe a wedding venue does that. So I just wanted to make that comment that I don't think that's really a public benefit. I think he's just kind of checking
No,
a
ma'am,
box.
that is not the public benefit
Oh,
offered by the
okay.
PUD. That's meeting the requirement of that particular type of use in the least intrusive way from the neighborhood. I think we all agree that putting a convenience store in the middle of the neighborhood or something like that, any other kind of neighborhood commercial use would not be beneficial to the neighborhood and would probably be more intrusive than the neighborhood would probably like. And it would generate additional traffic to the neighborhood, lighting, noise, and all those kinds of things. The wedding venue without any kind of sound amplification in a remote area of the property on the interior seemed to be the least intrusive way to meet the minimum requirement for that neighborhood commercial use.
I understand. So the wedding venue, is it also the road part of the public benefit?
That's part of the public benefit. Avoiding wetlands is part of the public benefit. That's a huge part of it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
The walking trails that
trails,
are going to
okay.
be open to the public.
Okay.
But the wedding venue is not meant to satisfy that portion.
I understand. Thank you for that clarification.
Anyone else with a technical question? Seeing none, happy to hear from the applicant.
Chair, I will let Adam Brock here speak in a second, but just to address one or two things that did come up. I can assure you, Mr. Brock didn't purchase this property off of Zillow. Small neighborhood is one of the potentially most dense properties. There's also infill on this particular property. So I just wanted to point that out. With regards to the roadway, we talked about this a little bit last time. We do believe it's a benefit, not just for this development, but for the county to have the roadway paved. Mr. Brock's attorney, the county surveyor, Public Works, everything we've done so far has indicated that this is a public right-of-way. I understand that we just received something today that says otherwise. We do have 2 access points to meet the fire for the emergency conditions, but we do also have a main access point off of Church Street that is utilized for this development. And quite frankly, the roadway does not have to be paved. We do believe that, ultimately, this is a county decision, quite frankly, whether legal believes that this is a public right-of-way. And if so, we're certainly happy to offer up paving it. So with that, I'll turn it over for anything Adam wants to say.
Hi there, Adam Brock with BT Florida LLC and Brock Built Homes. Thank you all for your time today. To reiterate what Jamie said on the public versus private road, I don't think there's any dispute that I have access to my site. The only dispute is it in the condition it's in today, or is it improved? And then on the improvement bucket, is it improved in the same footprint that exists today, which would be a more narrow street, which I want to put in the record, I'm in favor of for 2 reasons. One, it's naturally traffic calming. That's a long, straight run. So the idea of keeping cars going slower is something I like. And 2, it costs me less money. But we can work with it, whether it's deemed public or private. Our primary access for the subdivision will be off Church Street. In regards to the comment about Dan Garlick, an environmentalist, Apalachicola, I look forward to seeing that report. Just for the record, and kind of also with the water management comments, we have Jenkins Engineering, obviously civil engineer licensed, doing the design work. We also have a third-party Geosyntec that was hired by my environmental attorney, Michael Carvalho. Michael Carvalho, I don't want to give out all of his credentials, but he took part in drafting the ASTM standards in the 80s that environmental law is regulated by. So he's highly qualified. He has gone out and hired Geosyntec to oversee the entire project and do baseline testing of the bayou, not just on our property, but surrounding properties to see if there's any other causes of sedimentation. And then they'll continue to monitor throughout the life of the project until we're completely done and fully stabilized. And that goes through the vertical construction process, not just land development. We are disturbing less than 1/2 of an acre of wetlands. And actually, there's a thing or two we're looking at that may even reduce that further. Density on the bay, there's only 9 lots on the bay itself, or on the bayou. Our overall density is 1.8 per acre. That's factoring the 103 acres we own. If I look at it differently and factor the cluster and say the 38 acres that we're preserving and ultimately opening up for public use, if I took that out of it, we're still less than 3 units an acre. We're at 2.92. And that's only factoring the land that we are actually developing. There is a significant public benefit, and that's that 37% of the site is going to be either donated to the county if they'll take it, or we'll keep it privately owned, but put in a public use and enjoyment easement and access easement. So it will be open to the public, 37% of the site. That's how we see we're meeting the public benefit in addition to the other infrastructure we'll be putting in. In terms of the commercial requirement, the first idea was to put a restaurant on the bay, and we've actually talked with numerous restaurant owners and operators in the area that are already locally here and that have expressed interest in this site. My understanding is our current zoning entitlement would allow that today. That's not something we want to do. We agree that it doesn't seem right to put that type of commercial use in this location. So the wedding venue idea was a way to check that box without creating a true commercial center in this property. I think I covered most of it, but if there's any other questions from the group, I can answer.
Thank you, Mr. Brock. Anyone else have any questions for him? Thanks, sir. This is a major development. It will get a public hearing at Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners once it leaves TRC. It appears that most of the comments have been addressed. However, the question of the road certainly bears some further review by our legal staff and Public Works. I'm going to suggest that we continue this item for 2 weeks to give us a chance to address that particular item. I think this was originally planned to be on Planning Commission in May. I think that schedule could still be achieved, subject to moving forward on the 20th. But given the nature of the information today, that's what I would recommend.
Chair, that sounds fine. I do have clarification for Mr. Hall as well. From talking with Ms. Schultz yesterday, we had been doing this jointly so far as conceptual and detailed at the same time. It's my understanding, interpretation is we'll need to have a conceptual approval before the board, before the detailed approval. Is that correct, Mr. Hall?
Mr. Eubanks, that's the current policy and also the current structure in the Land Development Code. There is some discretion on whether the staff can and will review the detailed PUD plan concurrently with the conceptual plan, and that's a call that's made by the planning director.
Understood. What I was getting at with that was certainly we could come back in 2 weeks and hopefully have all these items addressed, but in a potential case where I think most of us would agree this is mainly technical, We could still potentially, as a solution, advertise the conceptual approval at the May Planning Commission, since it would have to be first anyhow.
The 20th would still give us time
Correct,
to do that.
correct.
And that was the point I was going to make. That'll give us time to review these things, even though these are technical things that relate more to the detailed PUD than the conceptual PUD. The sooner we come to a resolution, I think it's best for everyone, including the neighborhood. But I think we can make that decision on the 20th. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to continue this item to the very next TRC meeting on April 20th at 8:30 a.m. in this location.
I'll make that a motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to the April 20th TRC meeting at 8:30 a.m. in this location. Let's see. That moves us to item number 12, the Camp Swift plat. This is a final plat application reviewed by Stephen Schoen. Stephen, if you could briefly introduce it for us.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Camp Swift plat, project number PLA 21-000047, is a plat application submitted by Volker Surveying on behalf of Sub-IP LLC, requesting to plat 6 single-family lots on 1.25 plus or minus acres with a future land use of residential and a zoning category of neighborhood infill. The property is in District 5 and can be identified by the parcel ID in your staff report, which I would like entered into the record, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. At the last meeting, the applicant did request a continuance based on some outside issues that they were facing. It's my understanding that those have been nullified and they are ready to proceed. There are still some additional or outstanding comments from the surveyor, county surveyor, and from planning. They are minor in nature, and I will allow the applicant to address those as they so choose. If you have any questions for me, I can answer them now.
I don't have any. Anyone else have a question for Stephen? Thank you, sir. We'll hear from the applicant.
Good morning, Melissa Ward with Dunlap and Shipman for the Camp Swift plat. Stephen was extremely accurate. Our original situation had slightly modified, and we've got that all corrected. The developer had provided us with the surety to be able to submit with the engineer's cost estimate. Unfortunately, it was a personal check. We had to get them to go back, and they're going to be they're going to New Orleans today to pick up a cashier's check to submit with that engineer's cost estimate. They'll be back this afternoon, and we've updated the plat with the most current information based on the sale of the property. So that's been done, and we will be submitting that this afternoon, I believe. And all the other notes that are associated with the plat also being corrected, having reviewed it myself a few times. So we would like to be able to move on to, obviously subject to the conditions being met, move it on to the county commission as soon as possible.
These look like pretty minor items that can be cleared up fairly quickly.
I have already submitted covenants and restrictions. Stephen emailed me a comment that I'm ensuring that the information is adequately provided, and we're resubmitting those.
Anyone have any comments? Questions or comments? Thank you. We'll take just a moment. Anyone in the audience have a technical question or technical comment about this particular item? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion or recommend a motion. Stephen?
Yes, staff would recommend a conditional approval to move to BCC upon satisfaction of all outstanding comments.
Thank you, Stephen. We have recommended motion. Do we have motion at the dais?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to move this, to conditionally move this item forward, subject to satisfaction, standing comments. Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to the BCC and advertise once comments have been satisfied. This will move us to item number 13, the Pecan Solar Energy Center. This is a minor development reviewed by Stephen Shawn. Stephen, if you could introduce it for us.
Yes, thank you. The Pecan Tree Solar Energy Center is a request to approve by development order, project number MIN 22-000004. Is a minor development order application submitted by the Planning Collaborative on behalf of Florida Power and Light, requesting to develop an existing or redevelop an existing 1,107 square foot home to develop a 1.73 acre substation and solar panels on 762 plus or minus acres with a future land use of general agriculture in a zoning district of general agriculture. The property is located in District 2 and can be identified by the parcel ID in your staff report. If I could have that entered into the record, please.
So entered, thank you.
Thank you. I do want to make a couple updates. The staff report has been updated in the system to reflect engineering comments that were submitted recently, indicating that they don't have any outstanding comments for that matter. There is an outstanding flood question, and the applicant is aware that they need to produce a flood study, and they are in agreement with that request, and I believe they're doing so presently. With that being said, I can answer any questions. If not, I will turn it over to the agent.
Any further questions for Stephen? Thanks, Stephen. We'll hear from the agent. Good morning.
Brandon Eckert, ECK-ARD, with FPL, and also have Gary Hunter here, legal counsel, then Laura, help with planning, and then also our stormwater engineer, Stephen Williams, to answer any technical questions that remain. But yes, we've been busy since the last TRC talking with staff. We've talked with Health Department for some clarification, environmental, Haley, and then Stephen as well, and then also Public Works to talk about the entrance road on EM White Road. And so we're happy to have come to conclusion on those comments. And so Stephen did mention the floodplain base flood elevation study, which it was underway right now. We're expecting it later this month. And so we've also added a note in our plans that commits us to staying above that base flood elevation depending on the study. So there will be review period once we can complete our study.
Any questions with any of the rest of the staff report?
I have one more thing. We also, in the end of last month, March 25th, we received our DEP permit and have that in hand. So, well, we're happy we're able to get that before the meeting here. So, just wanted to mention that.
Recognizing that it's not required before the county acts on its development order application, but thank you very much for that. And I mean, that's the way we used to be able to do it, have all the permits in hand before we issue the development order, but we appreciate due diligence on getting that in hand.
Yep. And we also checked our sign before the meeting just to make sure it was good, and we'll just say we adjusted it a little bit to make sure it was up for the public. So,
well, we appreciate that. I mean, it's important to make sure the public, stays in touch with what's happening in their neighborhood.
Yep.
Project, and we want to make sure that we do have the most notice to the public as possible. So thank you for that. Did you have any questions about anything else in the report? I think that looks like pretty much the last outstanding item. Now that we got engineering comments cleared. I'm going to take just a moment and invite any member of the public to ask a technical question about compliance. Is there anyone here today that has a technical question about compliance with Land Development Code or Comprehensive Plan on this particular application? Yes, ma'am. You could come to the podium and state your last name and spell it for the record, please.
Hi, good morning. I'm Jennifer Dodge, DODGE. I just have a question because this is part of a 4,500 previous, like a county agreement that they have. And so I just want to know, like, how many of the acres is this going to make you under that agreement?
So here, I actually have a map out. So to answer the question, we have 4,500 acres that we are able to develop in this area, and this project area is for the site is 730 or 760 acres, but our total project area for this parcel is 1,600 acres. So we have an exhibit that I talked through with Stephen, which shows our project in relation to the other four. I can give this to you if you'd like it. And but it shows our current project in relation to the other future projects and our setback plan.
And that I think we have in Citizen Serve already.
That's correct. We submitted that 2 weeks prior to today as a part of our responses to comments from staff.
Thanks, sir.
Yep.
Anyone else have a question about this particular item? Seeing none, Stephen will entertain a motion.
Staff would recommend a motion of conditional approval based on satisfying all outstanding comments and moving into final submittal for DO issuance.
Thank you, sir. We have a recommended motion. Do we have a motion at the dais?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to development order subject to satisfaction of any outstanding comments. Thank you, Stephen. That'll move us to number 14. Project also reviewed by Stephen, the Bowline Apartments, Goldsby Road. Am I pronouncing that one correctly?
Honestly, I'm not sure. Sorry, I've been saying Bowline, but maybe we ask the applicant to clarify for us.
We need to add a phonetic spelling in parentheses.
That's right. That would help everybody probably. Okay, so the Bowline or Bowline Apartments of Goldsby Road is a request to approve by final order. Project number MAJ 22-000005 is a major development order application submitted by Nautilus Civil Engineers on behalf of Goldsby, Florida, LLC, requesting to develop 162 apartments and clubhouse on 9.8 plus or minus acres with a future land use of commercial in a zoning district of general commercial. Property is located in District 4 and can be identified by the parcel number in your staff report, which I would like entered into the record, please.
So entered. Thank you.
Thank you. Since publication of the staff report, we have received a notice of no comment from engineering. Their comments have been satisfied. There is an outstanding GIS comment relating to road names. I know the applicant has been in discussions with GIS and they're trying to move forward with that concern. Additionally, floodplain and engineering comments have been satisfied except for one question. I believe Haley has been in contact with the applicant, and I will let him address that to the board if he so chooses. But it's my understanding that it is relatively minor in nature. Staff has, I think, one or two minor, tiny clarifications that need to be addressed in a resubmittal. But other than that, I'll turn it over to the agent unless you have questions for me.
I did note that we had outstanding comment or no comments from the health department, which this is going to be on public water and sewer, which is what that comment will say. But
I'm sorry?
And a pool, it looks like, a swimming pool.
Yes.
And
Yes.
y'all will send us the normal Escambia County pool comment. Which is correct. It's not supposed to be Walton County. It is managed through the Escambia County office. I think do we have any other comments or questions from?
I just want to say that Public Works' comments have been addressed.
Yes, did I not change that in the staff report? Okay, I apologize.
That's okay.
I thought I did,
Just
thought I had.
wanted to have it on the record.
Thank you for that.
Do we still have engineering comments or Dewberry comments outstanding?
No, I received an email this morning stating that they have been satisfied and a traffic letter attached.
All right. So I guess we are back to the one environmental comment.
One environmental and one GIS in relation to the road names. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. We'll hear from the applicant.
Very good. Thank you.
Morning, Curtis Smith with Nautilus Civil Engineers, SMITH. We did address, we've actually turned around 2 partial resubmittals since the last meeting, just to kind of fast track this through. We addressed the environmental comments. Haley and I just spoke outside, and I've got one more detailed spreadsheet calculation I'm going to send to her just to show my work, basically. So that should address that comment. We spoke with Steve Hall yesterday while he was driving to an emergency, and we kind of gotten all this stuff together really quickly. Steve and the attorney for the client here was supposed to speak this morning. Did you speak with her this morning?
No.
Okay. They're going to iron out the specifics, but basically they're going to do an amended and restated agreement just to define more clearly some of these things on workforce housing. And I believe pretty much everything else is addressed. I spoke with Matt Betts at GIS yesterday. He was supposed to get back to me by the end of the day to determine if they wanted this parking lot drive to be named or not, and he didn't get back to me. Called him this morning, and I think he had a doctor's appointment. But that comment is essentially we either have a road named Bowline Drive or we don't, and it's called Gosby Road. So that depends on how it's going to be addressed. So he is supposed to be in by 11, and I'll call him as soon as the meeting's over, and we'll do that. So that actually addresses all of our technical comments. We did have, if the committee cares to see, we did have some marketing materials. We actually revised some things pretty significantly since the last meeting. We added a much nicer bus stop area, some monument signage, the landscape. We had a fully detailed landscape architecture plan put together that is extremely detailed. He's got some renderings of the rain garden and some things like that if the committee would like to see them. We'll certainly be showing them at the Planning Commission and BCC meetings. We have them with us today. If you like, would you like to see those?
Sure, let's see them.
I'll let Adam Brock with Brock Mill speak on these items.
Hey there. Adam Brock, this time with, I think, Goldsby, Florida, LLC or something, and Brockville. So if you don't mind, you can skip through the first couple pages. It's just the parcel map and a brief description. But keep going. Let's see, right there. So this is the colorized site plan. Just I find they show better than the engineering plans. You can go to the next one. But after the last meeting, I know we talked a little bit about amenity, the rain garden, the bus stop, and making sure it was kind of a friendly environment for pedestrians and people taking that transit option. If you go to the next slide. So we put together, this slide here shows the bus stop, the proposed structure, bike racks, it's kind of more detailed landscaping around both the rain garden, entrance monumentation, and the entryways to the project. The right side, you can see that's along Goldsby Road. So it's picking up the pedestrian sidewalk and the bus stop. And what we wanted to do is kind of integrate the transit stop and the monumentation sign together. So we think we've achieved that. Go to the next one. This is our amenity center. One thing I do want to point out, the designer, he's a landscape designer, by the way, and a land planner. He oversized that pool a little bit. It's slightly too big, but roughly speaking, the building is the exact same footprint, and the auxiliary structures are the same. The pool itself will be slightly smaller than what's shown there. And then this shows two of our other parks in the community. There's a kind of grilling area and more formal park, and then at the very end of the site, there's going to be some wet ponds with fountains, and so this shows another kind of seating area and dog walk area that we're putting into the property. So, and then these are some of the elevations of the apartments. So that's it. I'm free to answer questions, like always, if there are any.
Thank you very much. I think it's going to be a nice looking project. We appreciate the additional landscaping detail. I mean, that sense of place, which I think you're familiar with creating, is critically important to our county. We want places where people want to be. We've got a long history of creating those kinds of things, and that's the kind of development that we're looking for, that placemaking kind of development. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We're going to take just a moment to ask if anyone has a technical compliance question about this particular application. Anyone in the audience? Yes, ma'am. If you could come to the podium and state your name for the record and spell your last name.
Jennifer Dodge, DODGE. My question is that this zoning was approved a long time ago with very strict requirements about workforce housing, and I want to know what kind of secret conversations are going on between the developer and the county attorney. I was going to ask it.
Specifically, there's no secret conversations. I'll say it on public record, but the county attorney and I have been speaking about updating the developers agreement that was recorded, approved by the Board of Commissioners, recorded in Walton County records, and done so without some of the language, detail, and requirements that exist today on the developer agreement template. While we don't have a requirement, in my opinion, and that's probably a legal question, to update the agreement, we would like to see it be in conformance and standing with what a developer agreement would look like if you were doing it today. We haven't had any discussions around particulars on the actual workforce housing requirements themselves, simply the detail that would be in the agreement.
Thanks, sir. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Morning, thank you. Donna Johns, Johns. I have a few questions about this particular development. Number one is I see that there are 162 units and 304 parking places. Do we know how many of these are one bedrooms, how many are two, and how many are three? Because that's not 2 parking spots per unit. And you know we have a parking problem all over the county, including your parking lot right here. So I think that we need to kind of have more parking. We need to enforce more parking because they're going to be parking all over the place. And you can't say that there's only going to be 1 car per 1 bedroom. It's just not going to happen. I think that the Land Development Code even requires a little more than that, doesn't it?
We'll ask the project reviewer to specifically address traffic or parking, excuse me, to answer your question directly.
The parking on this one is based on the land development code minimums, 1.5 spaces per one bedroom. They also, this site is split into an eastern area and a western area, and the parking requirements are actually based on the areas, not just the site overall. So the western area, we have 12 one-bedrooms. I'm sorry, the eastern area, we have 12 one-bedrooms, 18 two-bedrooms, and a total required amount of 59 spaces. There's 65 provided on that one, so a little bit extra. On the western area, there's 61 bedrooms at 1.5 space each, 72 two-bedrooms, 2 and 3 bedrooms at 2 spaces each, 234 spaces required, and 237 provided. So I didn't break out 2 and 3. I believe Adam has that. Oh, I do have that. I'm sorry. We have on the eastern area 3 3-bedrooms, on the western area 12. So we have a total of 15 3-bedrooms.
Thank you. So they're meeting the minimum requirements, allegedly.
At least the minimum, yes, ma'am. And by the way, we are building a new parking lot for this building.
Thank goodness. I know. I just had this problem today. Are there any buyouts on this property? No buyouts? Okay. Any proportionate fair share?
Yes, there will be.
And how much will that be?
I don't have a copy of the letter in front of me to specifically.
And actually, it was requested last time, and this will be ready for the Planning Commission. Public Works has not yet designed the turn lanes. They're in design currently. We design them. I actually have our design on our thumb drive here that if anybody cares to see it, we'd show you. But Half is designing the turn lanes for them. As soon as they're done, our plan will be complete on the pedestrian path that extends from this site all the way along the west side of Goldsby to 98. Per the developer's agreement, the costs for the transit stop and the turn lanes that are public use items, not just private for that development, those will come out of the prop fair share funds. I believe my preliminary calculation was around 111, 112,000. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I have a copy here. It's $111,081.09.
And so we're going to have a cost estimate from the contractor that says how much of that will go toward the multi-use path. And at the time when that happens, now that'll come with a public works permit in the future, the path itself. So as of right now, the prop fair share has to be paid. And then in the future, if the path is approved, which it will be, at that time, then it'll be deducted by the amount of the public improvements.
Thank you. So the proportionate fair share will be reduced based on what the county does or the state does? Who's putting in the turn lane?
The county is proposing those turn lanes. Their proportionate fair share will be applied against the cost of that.
Okay.
We were doing those, and it was a part of that, but we're no longer doing those because ours will only be the path, and whatever's left over will go to profit share.
On the sheet that I have, it's got the infrastructure summary, and it's got site access does not comply. Has that been fixed? It has been fixed?
I'm not sure what you're looking at.
Oh, I got it off of your site this morning.
Staff report?
Yes. And it's under special considerations. Or excuse me, it's under infrastructure summary, and it says site access, and it's got the non-comply marked. Sure, absolutely.
I was waiting for engineering comments to be satisfied. This is a comment relating to their review component. I've been made aware that they are no longer, or they are satisfied and have no longer any comments. So that needs to be addressed, but I just haven't had the chance because I got comments. Yes, so it's my understanding that as part of the initial development proposal map change, as well as public safety. Because the number of units, they're requesting 2 access points, as well as when I first measured the distances between the two, it appeared to me that it was under the minimum 300. It is in fact not under the minimum 300. So it's been resolved both mathematically and just as a public safety matter. They can have 2, and that comment is void.
Can anyone tell me when our last traffic study was for that area?
Last traffic study by the county?
By FDOT?
I'm not sure. They prepared one for this particular project, submitted with this project.
Is there currently?
We prepared one for this project, and we used the latest DOT numbers, which were 18, I believe. And then beyond that, it also adds in all the projected trips for Walton County that Dewberry keeps up with. So there's actually trips that won't be on that road for 10 years or more that are in the numbers. So it projects future trips as well. And we did a traffic study specifically on Goldsby Road with the rezoning and did some turn lane analysis, traffic signal warrant analysis. The turn lanes are warranted, the traffic signal is not warranted, nor did the commission want to do a traffic signal.
Okay, so we're going to put all these apartments in there without a light, and the traffic studies from 2018, which is extremely outdated based on our current influx of people. And you also realize,
I don't think that's what he just said.
he said it was 2018.
Yes, but we didn't do this without a traffic study. The applicant has prepared one. He just described it.
Yes, but I'm asking about an FDOT traffic study. An applicant can, provide studies. I'm asking for what the Florida Department of Transportation is saying. Because I was told recently by an official that there, on any given day, 220,000 cars on our roads at any given day.
Okay.
And that's a lot of cars because the population is only around 75,000. So that's a lot of vehicles, and I just don't believe that we get a real clear picture of what we're dealing with. Because on Goldsby, as I mentioned at a previous meeting, it runs parallel with Mac Bayou. And Mac Bayou's got all of that construction going on there, and they were going to use a cut-through at Goldsby to relieve some of that traffic. So instead of really relieving traffic, we're just putting in more traffic.
Actually, you're familiar with the East Lamb connector that's proposed in the mobility plan. It's also part of the prioritization of projects at the TPO. Are you familiar with that?
I'm familiar that the mobility plan has been kind of in existence for a while, but I haven't seen any results.
Been following the county's prioritization of traffic improvements for the TPO.
I have been following what FDOT says and what I see on a day-to-day basis on the roads. That's what I follow, reality.
Well, there is some more reality, some planning reality. The county has been very successful in getting its projects into the needs plan, into the project priorities at the TPO, and that East Lamb connector is one of those projects.
Are you talking about the road through the forest?
No, ma'am.
No, okay, good.
Well, actually,
good.
this road does go through a portion of the forest where we have patent easements already. East Lamb connector from Mac Bayou all the way over to West Hewitt.
Well, I was talking about the one that you mentioned at previous meetings that is going from Mac Bayou to Goldsby to alleviate the traffic on Mac Bayou.
It will go past Goldsby over to East Hewitt.
Well, we're still dealing with the same traffic
It's
pattern.
the same roadway, but that's a new roadway proposed to relieve some of the traffic on US 98 that will eventually get all the way over to the intersection of County Road 38 West and US 98.
My point is, we have an awful lot of traffic, and we need to be aware of that, and we need to deal with current numbers, not dated numbers, is my point. I'm personally stuck in traffic for an hour for about 1.5 miles yesterday. So, I mean, I get it. There's a lot of traffic. I just want to make sure that things are done properly and done with the people in mind, There were several other things, and you probably can tell me that they've already been approved and that are changed, and that's fine. I'm just asking a simple question here.
Okay.
And this is on the reviewer's summary. And on here, Public Works said non-comply, floodplain management said non-comply, and environmental planning said non-comply. And I don't understand why the staff traffic engineer and the staff stormwater engineer had non-applicable.
Not reviewed by our staff engineer, they're reviewed by our contract engineer, is the normal process. If the contract engineer is also the project engineer for the applicant, then we review it in-house.
Okay, so in this case, we did not review it
Contract
in-house.
engineer reviewing their own work. But that's why we list everybody there. It's just not applicable for this particular review to have two different engineers review the same project.
Okay.
Mr. Chair? The current FDOT Traffic Online website states that there's an average daily trip of 44,000 on US 98 in this segment, not 220,000.
Well, I was told by Sheriff Atkinson at his press meeting the other day that there were 220,000 cars on any given day driving there, and I think that...
On all roadways in Walton County, maybe?
I don't think he specifically said on all roadways. I think he was referring to Highway 98.
That's 98, that's...
Well, this property we're talking about right now is going to be affecting US 98. That's my point. It says previous actions consistent with the comprehensive plan and consistent with the land development code. No, I suspect all of that has been corrected. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Miss Lori in the back.
Lori Eccles. Hi, thank y'all for coming to see us today. I have a lot wrong with this, but it's not even just all this. Again, the parking spaces, and I know that they're in compliance because that's what it is, and y'all know my feeling on that with it needing to be changed, the land development code needing to be changed. There is nothing, there's going to be so much traffic on Goldsby. It is impossible to get out of there now. And just because I came that way this morning, I had to go by there, the traffic was backed up all the way on 98 going towards Miramar Beach. Traffic was backed up all the way to the Publix out like in this area, I call it. There was traffic backed up at Goldsby, trying to take a left and a right. So even when you have the two lanes at the end, it's really not going to help. 98 is a parking lot this time of year, and it's a big, big problem.
Do you have a technical question?
I do. And really and truly, about the best technical thing that I could say is, number one, with the parking, just to piggyback off of Donna's remark about the connector road, I think the connector roads, it's great to have all these things talked about and planned, but we need a date of when the completion on those might be. And I feel like no more development needs to go in until the connector roads, till you have a way for people to be able to get around. You have tax-paying citizens that can't get in and out of their driveways or off of their roads. That needs to be handled. But there are a lot of things wrong with this development, and I think that y'all need to stay this until the development agreement is made public.
Mac, I wanted to also add, I just remembered because I get these emails, the design of the Hewitt Bayou Connector Road, which is what this is, was advertised last week, and the design qualifications packages are due on May the 2nd, so it's moving forward.
Ms. Lori, did you hear that information? He was just, well, to follow up on your question about dates, the RFP for the design of that particular roadway, I think, closes May 2nd, in about 30 days or so, or a little less than. Anyone else with technical question? Yes, ma'am, at the back. Or
Got this one, Donna Johns, JOHNS. It says on here on the parking that the minimum required parking stall length is 20 feet for 90-degree parking. Reduced parking stall lengths can be approved by the county engineer in accordance with the Land Development Code. Are they requesting to reduce the size of their parking lots, parking spaces?
Not all of them. There's some that are 18 feet in length.
So what we do on these is we go by the module formula, which is what the Institute of Transportation Engineers uses in the handbook. Instead of putting a 20-foot space in and a wheel stop 2 feet in, and the sidewalk adjacent to it being more narrow, we widen the sidewalks out so that those act as the wheel stop. So instead of having your short, 4 or 5 foot sidewalk, you have anywhere from a 6.5 to 8 foot sidewalk. They're widened out to act as both the wheel stop and the sidewalk.
And to allow for the vehicle overhang to not impede the sidewalk.
Thank you.
anyone else? Ms. Landry?
Hey, how are you? Margaret Landry, Landry. Thank you, and I'll be really brief. There are two things I wanted to say. One is about the traffic. And I come to all these meetings, they always talk about proportionate fair share, and everybody's going to pay into that. I agree with Ms. Eccles. Let's get the proposed improvements done first before we decide to increase the traffic in the area. Just seems like it would make more sense. Also, the wetlands in the center are contiguous. So any impact on those wetlands in the center are going to impact the property to the south. So it looks like they have a road through it, but how are they going to address, or, no one has talked about the impacts, and I see you shaking your head, so what do you think?
Well, they're certainly impacting, but they're providing, I want to say 3, if I recall correctly, large culvert pipes, and they've provided an analysis to show that those will keep the flow as it is based on the contributing areas to that wetland.
So there will not have any impact
No, they're
on the
going to
wetlands
impact.
to the south?
They're not going to have any impact on the conveyance capabilities of the wetlands connecting them. They'll be connected. They're going to impact for the roadway, but they have culverts that will support the flow that's calculated.
All right. Do you think doesn't seem like it's the same thing? Culverts don't provide the same, thing that a wetland would for the environment, but.
I agree with that. So that's a separate issue, right? So engineering wise, it's not going to cause any flooding, okay, on the upland side or the south side. The impacts are being permitted through the proper format as far as any wetland impact would go.
And that's what I have concerns with. So, thanks.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Jennifer Dodge, DODGE. Follow up because I didn't like the answer to the question that I asked because I didn't really get an answer. So what I would like you to do is to stay this application right now because the whole thing was approved based on the development agreement, the land use change. The whole development is based on that developer agreement. And now the applicant is asking us to change it or clarify it or whatever. It needs to go back through the process of BCC, needs to be public, needs to be done in the sunshine in front of everyone, and everyone needs to have some say-so about it. So I ask respectively that you stay this for the moment until you iron out the basis of what this application is on.
We've already done that. The BCC has already approved a developer agreement for this particular apartment development that requires a certain amount to be restricted to income eligible
But
families.
the applicant is asking to change that, is he not?
And the applicant is responding to.
Let me clarify.
Okay, please.
It was my request to make additions to the 2020 development agreement. Came from the county.
Okay.
Because I was asking for more detail in relation to the workforce housing provisions that we're now adding as the county into these workforce housing development agreements. So they have a valid existing development agreement. The only reason we're talking about it is because I want them to add more to it.
Yeah,
More
and I
detail.
think that's a good idea. I think that at the time it
Well,
was negotiated, it was not fully done. First of all, if he doesn't do what he says he's going to do after he's built the place, nothing's going to happen to him. So, I mean, I have some concerns as a citizen when they start changing things that I've worked very hard to even get where we are. So, I mean, can you understand that me as a citizen, I'm very
Yeah,
concerned, and I'd like to know what was going, I'd like to know
Yeah,
what's going on.
I just wanted to clarify that it was the
Okay.
county that asked for
Okay.
additional stuff.
And that's fine,
it wasn't
too.
their request to get out of something.
Okay, well, that's fine too. I just think it should still be public and everybody should know what's going on. And it may not be anything that I have anything to say about, but I certainly should.
As soon as I receive a draft amended and restated development agreement, it'll go right into Citizen Serve and be available in relation to this project file.
Okay, and then how will I know that it's out?
No, there you
Okay.
go.
Okay,
The
thank you.
applicant, the
Okay,
applicant will
thank
tell you.
Thanks.
Anyone else have a technical question? We'll close that portion. Stephen, do we have a recommended motion?
Yes, in light of the nature of the outstanding comments and in keeping with Comprehensive Plan Policy H.1.2.5, necessitating expedited review of affordable housing, staff would recommend conditional approval of this project to move forward to Planning Commission.
Thank you, sir. And this would be the May Planning Commission? Or April? I think we are on April 14th. We're going to need the revised language on that agreement if it's going to be changed as soon as we can. We have a motion to continue us to conditionally approve this item and move it forward to the Planning Commission. Can we have a motion at the dais?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to the Planning Commission, and that hearing will be on April 14th.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to recuse myself from items number 15 and 16 for conflict of interest.
Let's see, we're at item number 15, the Morgan Developer Agreement. And the companion Morgan Small Scale Amendment. Reviewed by Bob Baranti. Bob, if you can briefly introduce it for us.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Good morning. As you said, this is the developer agreement submitted by Dewberry Engineering on behalf of Benjamin Morgan to set development controls on the proposed future land use in official zoning district change from the current future land use of state residential to industrial and extractive uses, and the current zoning from state residential to light industrial on 4.66 plus or minus acres. The property is in District 1, and the parcel number is included in your staff report. Mr. Chair, this document was continued from the March 16th meeting to allow for a community workshop. The community workshop was held. The agent will go over the results of the workshop. And just a brief summary, this development agreement is basically for the uses and land uses that comply with the Air Force's missile training route. The Air Force has agreed with it. Staff attorney has reviewed it and put some additional requirements in it. The agent and Air Force have agreed, so we're starting this process through the meeting chain. Can I enter this document in the record, please?
So entered. Thank you, Bob.
Do you have any questions for me before I turn it over to the agent?
Anyone have questions for Bob?
Keep in mind, this is the first step of the companion land use change. I'll turn it over to the agent.
Bob?
Good morning. Rudy Mall with Deliberation Engineers. I have the landowner here, Ben Morgan. Per your last continuation, we were requested to hold a community meeting, and so we notified property owners within 400 feet. We had the project meeting on site. Approximately 4 or 5 out of 9 property owners showed up. And it was basically split down the middle. Half were for it, half were against it. Property owner to the east was for it as long as that natural vegetated buffer stays intact during any kind of future development. As for the other property owners that were against it, they just didn't see any benefit with the land use change. That's it. You guys have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Anyone else have a question for the applicant's engineer? And since this is involving a small-scale amendment, and these are companion items, the agreement has no effect without the land use change. I don't think we have any questions on that right now. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And I think we can take both of these together. Bob, if you want to talk about land use change also, we'll talk about that item also. The Morgan Small Scale Amendment, which is the subject of the developer agreement.
Yes, Mr. Chair. As I stated earlier, this is a request for land use change. It's a small amendment submitted by Dewberry's on behalf of Benjamin Morgan, requesting to change the future land use from state residential to industrial and extractive uses, and to change the zoning from state residential to light industrial on 4.66 plus or minus acres. The property, as I stated, is in District 1, and this project was also continued in the March TRC meeting to allow for a public workshop. As you heard from the agent, the workshop was scheduled and held. All comments are addressed. This will not need a transmittal to the state for review, and I would gladly answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Bob. I don't think I have any this morning.
And just for the record, that if the development order is approved, that would limit the uses on this site to maintain the Air Force's missions.
Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome, sir.
Any member of the TRC have a question about the small scale amendment application and Bob's report? We'll take a moment to hear from anyone in the audience that has a question about this particular technical compliance with the code or the comprehensive plan. Yes, sir. If you come to the podium and state your name for the record and spell your last name, please.
My name is Jeff Culbreth, Culbreth. The property just to the north of Mr. Morgan's is mine. I attended the public hearing. There were no renderings at all, nothing on paper, nothing to look at, nothing to read. I've been up in Freeport 20 years. And I've lived next door to Morgan and his 4.5-acre salvage yard for over a year. There's constant noise 7 days a week. Men with power tools, diesel equipment, forklift, front end loader, crane, shuffling boats around. And every time one of these machines back up, it's beep, beep, beep. You can hear it loud and clear. Trucks hauling boats in and out of there all day long. And when the big trucks come from the east, westbound down Highway 20, and they make the right-hand turn onto King Road, some of them don't negotiate that turn very well. And the back axle end up in the ditch between Highway 20 and King Road, blocking King Road. Nobody can get in, nobody can get out. And sometimes, some days, when they work, the work continues into the night. Well, they just crank up those diesel-powered light plants and they light that 4.5 acres up like a baseball diamond. And after a couple of months of Mr. Morgan being in operation, they hauled in some campers and had employees living in the campers. They even had them a porta toilet out there. And on the days when they got off, the employees, on the days they got off a little early, they would race their model race cars up and down King Road or discharging firearms. You got Highway 20 on the south, you got home on the west, the north and the east side. Who knows what direction they were firing those guns at? He hauls in these storm-damaged boats with cracked hulls and keels. Who knows what leaked out on the soil? I don't know if there's been a soil tested or what. There's wetlands in the southeast corner of this 4.5 acres. Code enforcement finally got behind it, and Morgan cleaned it up. And I've had my real estate license for 17 years, and in the real estate world, we've got a phrase for what Morgan's trying to do is called spot zoning. Beneficial to one and detrimental to the other property owners around him. And that's exactly what he's asking to do. And what I don't understand, 6.5 miles down the road to the east-northeast is a place called the Freeport Industrial Park. Why can't he take his stuff there instead of messing up our neighborhood? I'm sure they'd welcome him with open arms there at the industrial park. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Could I ask you one thing? Have you submitted written comments on this particular application?
Have I done what?
Have you submitted any written comments?
No, I have not. Didn't know anything about it.
I would recommend that you do that. I mean, the things that you just described, if you want to write those down in an email or a letter and send them in, we can make that part of the record.
If I can get an email, I will surely do that.
Yes, sir. I think one of our staff people would be happy to help you with that.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Anyone else have a question about technical compliance with land development code or comprehensive plan or this process? Yes, sir. Come to the podium and state your name for the record and spell your last name, please.
My name is Larry King, K-I-N-G. I own the property west of Mr. Morgan's place. I've lived there for 70 years. It's a little quiet community. I personally enjoy people being able to do pretty much what they like to do. Under this program here and what he does, I can't support a zone change in my front door. I can walk out my front door, I'm 50 feet from his business. I'm having to look at it every day. You know, I'm sure nobody in here would like to have that aerial view of their property. So in that aspect, I cannot support rezoning of this property.
Have you submitted any written comments?
No, I haven't. I didn't know anything about that, or I done it.
You're welcome to do that.
I'll do
One of
that.
our staff people will be able to help you with that
Thank you.
communication. Anyone else wishing to make a comment? Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Charlie Noonan, and I'm the mortgagee for
Spell your last name, please. for the clerk.
Noonan.
Thanks, sir.
I'm the mortgagee for the property to the north of Mr. Morgan. 363 feet front is part of his property.
Adjoining property owner to the north?
Yes. And the property owner had a dream, and the dream was to find a house in the woods in Walton County that a homestead could be peaceful, loving for the next 20 years or whatever. And then come to find out that Mr. Morgan's trying to change the zoning in a residential neighborhood. So we're a little bit concerned about that. I do have a technical question, and not being familiar with Walton County as well as Okaloosa or Bay County, are you familiar with the Freeport Recycle Center?
Yes, sir.
That's one of our fears, that right adjacent to my mortgagor's property could potentially end up like that, a real eyesore in the community. So we object to the rezoning, and just want to make that clear.
Just one clarification. This is not a request for a development order for any kind of development activity. This is a zoning change that would allow the application for a development order for a defined list of uses. So today we're only talking about a zoning change, not the actual activity that might result from a zoning change.
But how could the committee even consider a zoning change under the circumstances?
Because it's the due process of the property owner to make application, and we have to, by state law, consider it.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't
It's
have
just
to be
being
approved,
considered. Okay.
But they are absolutely entitled to make the application and get a decision. And that final decision is from the Board of County Commissioners. That is their due process, whether we like this or not. That's not a question of whether we like this particular idea. They have a right to apply for it. They
Right.
don't have a right to have it approved.
Right.
That is at the discretion of the Board of County Commissioners. But they absolutely have a right to make application. And just as all of the property owners have an absolute right to object to a change in zoning. And that's what we're here today to begin that process with, to consider the application at the first review, and to hear from folks that may have a different opinion about it or may support it. So we do appreciate your comments. You're welcome to submit written comments to become part of the record also. A member of our staff can certainly help you with that communication.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. I see one more hand up in the back.
Hi, Donna Johns, Johns. I see that the residents do not want this, the people that live there and enjoy what their lifestyle right now, that they do not want this. And I would like to ask that you do, I understand you have to accept, to look at the application, that they have a right to put in an application, but you also have the right to deny that. And I ask that you deny that and do not allow them to change this from a state residential to any industrial whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? We'll hear from project manager.
Mr. Chair, due to the comments and concerns issued, I would leave the recommendation up to the board as how we proceed.
Have they met the minimum application requirements to apply for a land use change?
Yes, sir.
Um,
And of course, it would get its public hearings and go through the process.
A public hearing at Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners as part of the due process.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
It appears that they've at least met the minimum requirements to make application, and that's the portion of our review that we're going to act on.
So staff would recommend, on hearing, staff would recommend the initial recommendation of conditional or approval and move it to the appropriate Walton County Planning meeting for its first public hearing.
I think they've met the application requirements suitable to go to their first public hearing.
Should we do the development order first, or are we just going to do two separate votes? Or the, I'm sorry, developers agreement first?
Yeah, we'll take them as two separate votes. They're companion projects. They met the minimum requirements for the developer agreement. The content of that satisfies Eglin, which is an absolute technical requirement that we must satisfy. And they've met the minimum application requirements for the balance.
Yes, Mr. Chair, correct.
Now, whether or not this gets approved is up to a recommendation from the Planning Commission and final action by Board of County Commissioners. But the applicant's entitled to that due process. And as such, we'll entertain a motion to move this forward for the Planning Commission's consideration.
First motion I would like to make is to recommend approval for the Morgan Development Agreement, DAG 22-000001. I'd make a recommendation to approve and move it to the Planning Commission for its public hearing.
I'm going to restate that motion, Bob, for the benefit of the board. And I'm going to recommend that the motion be that having met the minimum technical requirements for the application for a land use change, the TRC is recommending it be heard by the Planning Commission.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I withdraw my recommendation.
And that can be the gist of the motion for both of these particular items.
And before you vote, can we enter both of these into the staff report, please? Or staff report in the record, please?
Both of these staff reports are so entered into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
With that restated motion, we'll entertain a motion at the dais. We have a motion and we have a second.
Second.
A second. Excuse me. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Hearing none, this item has met the minimum technical requirements to be considered by the Planning Commission, and it will be scheduled the next available opportunity, both for the developer agreement and the mortgage small scale amendment. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
This moves us to the number 17, the Finch developer agreement and companion small scale amendment. Yes. Well, then let's have another motion to vote on the small scale amendment.
I make the
Bind them, but I recommend a motion that
it meets minimum standards.
And the applicant has met the minimum requirements for consideration at the Planning Commission. And it's moved forward to that next review step. We have a motion. We have a second. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is moved forward to Planning Commission. And now we'll talk about number 17 and number 18. The Finch developer agreement, if you can briefly introduce it for us.
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is the Finch Developer Agreement, as you said. This is a request to approve the development agreement for project DAG 21-000003. It was submitted by Dunlap and Shipman on behalf of John W. Finch Jr. to set development controls on the proposed future land use and official zoning district change from the extractive uses and the current zoning district of general this change from the current future land of commercial and estate residential to industrial and extractive uses, and the current zoning district of general commercial and estate residential to light industrial on 15 plus or minus acres. This project is in District 2, and the parcel numbers are added into your staff report. This also was continued from March 2nd, TRC meeting to allow for a public workshop. The agent has completed the public workshop. They will address it in their presentation. Once again, this developers agreement is based on the Air Force's missions needs in the missile training route. The Air Force has reviewed it, made comments, and have indicated they're okay with it. Our staff attorney has added some data into it and has recommended that it move through the process. I'd like to enter the developers agreement in the staff report, or staff report in the record, please.
So entered.
And do you have any questions before I turn it over to the agent?
I don't think I do. Anyone else that does have a question for Bob?
Mr. Chair, at this same time, would you like me to enter, go over the Finch's?
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the small scale also.
This is project number FLU 21-000011. This is a small scale amendment application submitted by Baker Engineering LLC on behalf of John Finch, requesting to change the land use from commercial and estate residential to industrial and extractive uses, and to change the zoning from general commercial and estate residential to light industrial on 15 plus or minus acres. It is in District 2. The parcel number is identified in your staff report. All comments have been addressed, and I'd like to enter that staff report into the record, please.
Thank you, Bob. Presently, this parcel has a split land use.
Correct.
Probably because there were multiple parcels assembled into the current request.
Correct.
Like we did the commercial land use change several years ago.
Yes, sir.
And the balance is estate residential.
Yes, sir.
This is also adjacent to the gun range immediately to the east.
Yes, sir.
And further east from that is the industrial site for General Dynamics, where they do military contracting to design bombs.
Test, yes.
And test those, as we're reminded every Thursday morning at about 11 o'clock. Thank you, Bob. Those were my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will now turn it over to the agent, and she will review the community workshop.
Thank you, Bob.
Good morning, Melissa Ward with Dunlap and Shipman regarding the developers agreement. You may recall at the last meeting, we had some people step up to speak on the submitted survey for the development. We asked for continuance in order to get with the community and discuss the issue, and we have done so. In addition to that, the small scale amendment, which Michelle will be discussing, or Ms. Baker will be discussing, her community meeting that she provided for the on-site visit. So this particular developer agreement, I just want to go over some of the information. Mr. Baranti did a great job. We did actually meet with, over multiple conversations with the Eglin Air Force Base community planner to discuss the conditions of the development because of their proximity to Eglin's property. And noted on pages 2 and, well, specifically 3, there are a lot of conditions in this that are specific to the Eglin Air Force Base. This is not going to be a residential development. Specifically, it will be excluded. The development is not, because it's going to light industrial, the concern was about whether or not there would be some issues for anything that would be emitted from the site that would hinder their flight patterns or anything like that. And of course, this site is not going to be used for those type of light industrial uses. The outdoor, it specifically prohibits outdoor amusement parks. Again, we're changing it from general commercial to light industrial for the purposes with some warehouses and parking and things. It has nothing to do with those type of activities. In addition to that, we added some language really to try to prevent birds from being on the property too often. Our stormwater ponds are and Michelle can speak to that, even though we're not at the phase of getting a development order, we are looking at whether or not the stormwater would be open ponds that would attract birds. They would not. It really isn't going to be a site where we're going to be attracting a lot of tourist attraction. It's not where people are going to come and congregate, and that's part of the biggest issue that they were concerned about as well. So having gone through the developer agreement, we submitted and moved forward with it. And again, we got to TRC last month, and the community, their immediate neighbors, spoke on the issue of the survey. So the community, or at least that quarter section there, was historically reviewed or surveyed by a surveyor by the last name of Henson. And what had occurred when Mr. Finch bought the property, his surveyor had done a technically sufficient or adequate survey that was different from what Mr. Henson had done. And so we had to meet with the community, met with Mr. Mayhew. The first time he brought us his survey that showed, he had hired a surveyor to show the difference, and the rest of the community has that same boundary line. So that surveyor had given to us, and there was a large copy that said, this is what Mr. Finch's surveyor had provided based on the legal description, and this is the survey that everybody else is using based on their historical documents. This is the boundary line that everybody has been using. So with that information, I met with Mr. Finch and his team, as well as the surveyor that Mr. Mayhew had hired, and we discussed having a boundary line agreement because one shift in the survey and legal description necessarily and implicitly modifies the rest of those lots that are abutting and in that same quarter section. So what Mr. Finch has done is he's agreed to use the original boundary lines that Mr. Henson had provided, and they're working on that document. And I believe he's got something that he's wanting to submit to the county saying we're going to use that original boundary line agreement, and they've submitted a revised survey showing the Henson boundary lines that he's used, that's been used for the last probably 40 plus years, maybe longer. The neighborhood is here to discuss it. In addition to that, the survey that was submitted, and certainly the one that I have was the original Pasco survey. What you might notice on the north side of that property, there is an area, it looks like a road or an easement along there. Throughout this process, although we're not there right now because it's not a development order, or it is just a land use amendment, Mr. Finch is, in order to preserve the access that these neighbors have enjoyed for as long as they've owned their property, is wanting to work with the county to dedicate that to them as potentially as a public road, because there is some documentation that recognizes from the 1980s, the county commission had recognized it as an existing right-of-way that they may in the future maintain. They have not maintained it thus far. It has been privately maintained. So the reason I mention that is it would ensure the property owner to the north would have access to his property. It is not in the development agreement that way because that agreement is more about the Eglin property, the Eglin concerns. It would be an agreement in the development order or a part of the final order, provided that's how the county wanted to move forward. And so I know there's going to have to be public comment, but we would like to, for this committee to recognize we've met those technical requirements and like to move it forward on any conditions that they may have to go before the Planning Commission for consideration.
One comment, it's certainly important to make sure that existing property owners have their access maintained, as you've indicated. And I think that can probably be addressed in any particular development order because the land use change doesn't impact that. It wouldn't have any way of restricting their existing access now, but I think that would be appropriately addressed at the development order stage to make sure that their access is maintained, at least at the present level. I did have a question about the utility letters. I understand that there's, what the letter says, there's no service provided to these parcels now because there's no development on those parcels now.
Right.
Question is public water available to this site since it's going to ultimately develop as some type of light industrial use? Public water is available to the fire station, which is just up the street.
Yeah, unless I'm mistaken, and I can ask Michelle to speak to that as their engineer, unless I'm mistaken, they're going to have to tie into the one that's across the street.
There's either there may be a water line on that side of the street.
Yeah, and I'm not sure of that. I apologize.
I'm sure it's on the east side, and I'm pretty sure it's City of Uniac. But going forward, we would certainly be interested in public water being provided to the site for any development use. Anyone else have any questions about for Melissa? Thank you, Melissa. We're going to take just a moment and invite any questions or technical comments from any member of our audience. Anyone here today wishing to speak on this particular item? You would raise your hand. Yes, sir. You could come to the podium and state your last name for the record and spell it for the record also, please.
I'm Mr. Mayew, M-A-Y-E-W. And the only comment I have is Mr. Finch has been kind enough to sign a statement in essentially backing what Melissa has just said. I'd just like to have it entered into the record.
We'd be happy to enter that into the record, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Provide it to the clerk. And could I just, Mr. Mayhew, your concerns that you voiced at the last meeting, have they been addressed?
Yes, sir. Mr. Finch has been very cooperative, as well as Ms. Ward, and I appreciate them and your efforts, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have a question? Yes, sir. You could come to the podium and state your last name and spell it for the record, please.
Morning left. Yes, Glenn Caswell, C-A-S-W-E-L-L. I'm the owner of the property to the north of the applicant's property. I do need to say for the record that I believe I have the longest border to the applicant's property. I have not received any notification at all about any of this development, except for one email from Baker Engineering regarding what they termed a community meeting that was to be held along the side of the road on Highway 331, which I had a prior commitment and just could not make that. This other meeting that was referred to, I received no notice at all on it, so I have no idea what was agreed to, not agreed to, discussed, anything about that.
Well, we recommended a community meeting. It's not a requirement of the code. There's no requirement to meet any of the Land Development Code meeting notice requirements. Once it's advertised for the Planning Commission, then you will receive a certified mail notice since you're within 300 feet of the parcel. But we're not quite at that stage yet as far as public notice. This was more of, we had a number of folks that spoke at the last meeting. It seemed like a good idea.
Yeah,
To sit down and talk with the neighbors before we moved forward, and
I agree, and I thought that was the case, but wasn't sure, just wanted to.
But that was at my recommendation, not to meet a code requirement, just to try to be good neighbors and make sure that the applicant understood the neighbors' concerns, and if those could be ameliorated in any way, they would have the opportunity to do that.
And I do appreciate the chairman's explanation on the prior applicant, Morgan, is the duties of the technical review committee versus the planning board or planning committee, and I'm not really sure where one leaves off and the other ones start regarding Mr. Finch's process and this one.
Essentially, the planning commission will be a recommending body. There will be a public hearing there, and anybody that has any opinion about the application can get up and say whatever they'd like to say. Today, we're taking questions or inviting comments about technical compliance with the application process to make sure that they have met all the requirements necessary to move an application forward to the Planning Commission for review and a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. We're not making a recommendation on whether or not it's a good idea or a bad idea at this stage. That comes at the Planning Commission stage. We're making sure that all of the information necessary for the planning commissioners to make their recommendation has been assembled and is in the proper form.
Okay, that's where I saw a great similarity with the Morgan application is the one we have here. And noting for the record that this development is, like the Morgan application, is surrounded on three sides by estate residential property, and their previous owner of the Finch property had requested a change from estate residential to a commercial zoning, and I didn't oppose that at that time because there'd be very little impact toward my property. Going to an industrial classification, as in the previous meeting, I was very hesitant. In fact, I opposed it at that time. Since more information has come to light and Mr. Finch is tentatively agreeing to keep the access road open, also to improve that access road and attempt to get the county to assume maintenance of it, I will withhold any objection to it, and it looks like it may be beyond this committee's purview, to deny it if he's met all the other requirements. But pending any further rezoning before the board or whatever, if the access and the improvement of that road is not implemented and put into the planning, I'll have to oppose it at that time.
Yes,
Thank
sir. And you're welcome to submit written comments if you haven't already.
I wasn't aware of that, and it was a question I was going to ask either by phone or email.
But we can take them by snail mail or email, or you can hand deliver them, and we'll take them the old way too.
Okay.
We still do that too.
Okay, thank you very much.
But one of our staff members can provide you with an email connection.
Sure, I'm sure I can find that. So.
Oh, you've already submitted a written comment? Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, that was just regarding the roadside meeting up there that I just said, I couldn't meet that. That was kind of irrelevant, but as far as I was concerned.
If you have other comments you'd like to provide in writing, we're happy to add those to the record also.
Thank you much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Anyone else have a technical question or technical comment about this particular application?
Michelle Baker, Baker Engineers. I did send out notification 500 feet from the property, but it was from the property appraiser site, so it might be that his address was not correct. So if he will email me his correct address, I will make sure for the planning board and the Board of County Commissioners that he does get noticed.
Thank you for that.
Because he did email me, and his email I uploaded for the portal, so it'd be as part of the record, so he can just email me again.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else having a technical question about this application? Seeing none, have they met all the requirements to have their application considered, Bob?
Mr. Chair, seeing that all the standards have been met in the comprehensive plan and the land development code, staff would recommend moving this project forward to the Planning Commission for its public hearing.
Thank you, sir. One last comment. I just noticed there are absolutely no wetlands appearing on this site according to the environmental assessment. Just an observation. Thank you. Thank you, Bob. We've got a recommended motion, and we'll have two motions, one on the Finch developer agreement and one on the Finch SSA. With the same language as Bob just recommended. Can we have a motion on the Finch developer agreement?
I guess I'll just make a motion as it was stated. Is that sufficient? It was previously stated there were some things associated with it, and I don't recall what you said, so.
The applicant has met the minimum requirements for their developer agreement to be considered by the Planning Commission.
And based on that, I would make a recommendation, or I would make a motion to move it forward.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move this forward to the Planning Commission. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item has met the minimum requirements to move forward to the Planning Commission for a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. Moving to number 18, can we have a similar motion on the Finch SSA item?
Based on a complete application, I make a motion that we move this forward to the next stage.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is approved to move forward to Planning Commission.
Mr. Chair, may I ask you, just in case if I didn't earlier, which I don't remember, can I enter the staff reports into the record, please?
So entered into the record. Thank you, Bob. That moves us to the Wang small-scale amendment number 19, also reviewed by Bob Aranti.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this was also continued in March for Emerald ECA to hold a public workshop that was recommended by the TRC. This is a future land use amendment of FLU 22-000001. It's a future land use amendment with rezoning application submitted by Emerald Coast Associates on behalf of Shu Starrett, requesting to change the current future land use from rural residential to commercial and the zoning district from rural village to general commercial on 1.40 plus or minus acres. The property is located in District 1, and the parcels numbers are identified in your staff report. And I said this was continued March 2nd. At the March 2nd TRC meeting to allow the applicants to hold a public workshop. At this time, can I enter the staff report into the record, please?
So entered, Bob, thank you.
And there will be no development agreement with this proposal.
We have no military impact area.
No, sir.
that covers this particular parcel.
No, sir. And I will turn it over to the agent.
Thank you, Bob.
Good morning, members of the TRC Board. Dean Burgess with Emerald Coast Associates. We've read through the staff report and concur with the recommendations therein. I did want to point out there was a floodplain review comment that basically stated that we can't increase density in the floodplain, per the code, which we acknowledge. We have started discussions for a developer's agreement, if that is necessary for that. I don't know that it is. Mr. Hall, perhaps you could opine on that. We recognize that the code says you cannot increase density within the floodplain. We don't intend to do so in the later stages of this.
I think that's couched in the terms of it's discouraged unless there's adequate area, adequate uplands to transfer it.
We, Mr. Burgess, we have been moving forward with a development agreement in those floodplain density limitation cases.
Okay.
So let's talk about one here.
We can do that in short order. We've actually had some discussions with Ms. Ward to have Dunlap and Shipman prepare it. So we will do that and get that to your office for review.
Thank you.
Since that's would be a normal requirement, I don't see that's an obstacle for us today. That's a pretty routine thing that we do anytime we have any of those circumstances. And we can add that to the application. So that catches up. And that can be a condition today.
We did have the community meeting. I can briefly describe that. We had one caller and on our Zoom call. They basically just had a question of what we anticipated doing on the project. It is an artisanal type of development that we anticipated doing, something like plumbers or electricians that have a small office up front, a place to keep their equipment in the backside of the operation. So it will be a development of that nature. They were fine with that. Didn't have any further comments, and we closed the meeting in a matter of probably 10 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Looks like we've got a number of other general commercial parcels in the area and one immediately south on across Rodney Drive.
Correct.
Anyone have any questions on the application submittal for this particular item? Seeing none, we'll take just a moment and invite a technical question from any member of our audience this morning. Anyone in the audience have a technical question about this particular application? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion, Bob.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that this project meets minimum requirements to move to the Planning Commission for its public hearing. I will also like to have the development agreement submitted and reviewed by council before the Planning Commission meeting.
Thanks, sir. I think we can do that. We have recommended motion. Do we have a motion at the time?
Or I'll make that into a motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. I would like to note that this item is consistent with the US 331 corridor plan. as presented to the board a few months back. We have motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is approved to move forward to the Planning Commission, subject to the addition of the developer agreement prior to that date. This moves us to item number 20, the Hollow Lake large-scale amendment. It's been reviewed by Bob Baranti. Bob, you can introduce that one for us.
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is a future land use amendment with rezoning applications submitted by Emerald Coast Associates on behalf of Black Creek of Northwest Florida, requesting to change the future land use from residential to commercial and the zoning district from urban residential to business park on 165.33 plus or minus acres. The property is in District 1 and is a load, and the staff report is included in your staff report. Mr. Chair, this project was also recommended to be continued at the March 2nd to allow for a public workshop. The agent has held that public workshop, and he will go over the results for you. May I enter the staff report in the record, please?
So entered. I do have a question about the less than accept parcel.
The less than accept parcel, I believe, is a utility piece that is owned not by the owner, and it will remain, that's out of the acreage, so that will remain the land use it currently is. I believe it's a utility substation.
Okay.
And so that is taken out of the survey and will remain as the current land use. The owner does not own it.
Okay, and as I recall, this urban residential on this particular parcel was placed there as a result of a lawsuit settlement some years back. Staff report in the record?
May I?
Yes, sir. So entered.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. We'll hear from applicant.
Good morning, Dean Burgess with Emerald Coast Associates. We concur with staff's report. We did have the community meeting. Again, we had one participant on behalf of one of the neighbors across the street, I believe was elderly, wanted to know what the future plan was for development. I can divulge that we are looking to do a high-end RV resort, maintaining the lakes that are on the property. This is the former Black Creek Pit property.
A sand mine for some period of time?
Correct, yes, sir. The idea is to not fill that lake in or anything, keep it as a lake and place RV sites around it and use the lake as an amenity. They were pleased to hear that.
As I recall, there was, in that settlement agreement, there was some period of time that the property owner was allowed to continue mining.
Correct.
And that there would be some restoration at the end of that, and this appears to be pointed in the direction of restoration.
Yes, sir. It is.
Well, we're pleased that the mining will be ending and restoration will be beginning. And I would imagine the neighbors around there would have a similar opinion, but they will all have an opportunity to share their opinion. Both the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. And if no one else has any questions for Dean this morning, we'll take just a moment and see if there's anyone in the audience that has a technical comment about this application.
This is another one with a flood zone that basically is coincident with the wetlands. We have submitted that into the portal for Mr. Hall's review, and we anticipate his response to that shortly.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
We'll take just a moment to invite any technical compliance question with Comp Plan or Land Development Code about this particular application. Anybody have a question this morning about this item? I see none, so we will move forward with recommended motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a recommended motion that this project meets the minimum requirements of the comprehensive plan and the LDC and move it forward for its public hearing at the Planning Commission at the appropriate meeting.
Thank you, Bob. One comment I would like to make is if this change is approved, this appears to remove several hundred dwellings from this particular district. It's a density reduction. I would recommend making that point when we get to Planning Commission, just so everyone's aware about that particular aspect. Even at 2 units per acre, that's 300 plus units. With water and sewer, it could be twice that. So we certainly recognize that, and thank you for moving forward with the restoration of the sand mine. We have recommended motion. Can we have a motion of the dais?
Make that a motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second to move this item forward, subject to satisfaction of the developer agreement requirement to the Planning Commission for their review. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to Planning Commission for the next review step.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Bob. That will move us to item number 21, the Move It Storage Santa Rosa Beach. This is a major development reviewed by Tim Brown. Tim, if you could introduce it for us.
Yes, good morning. This item was continued from the March 16th TRC meeting. This is a major development order application submitted by Emerald Coast Associates on behalf of Move It Storage, requesting approval to develop 92,037 square feet of mini storage, 7,000 square feet of fast food restaurant, and 4,000 square feet of medical office in 2 phases on 7.9 acres with a future land use of mixed use and a zoning of village mixed use. It's located in District 5 on the north side of Highway 98 next to the public shopping center. With that, could I enter the staff report into the record?
So entered. I'm going to note that we need to update the advertising blurb.
Yes.
Match the detail in the staff report with regard to the request. Not a reason to hold this application up today, but as we're moving forward to public hearings, it needs to be accurate.
Yes. So we only have 2 outstanding planning issues remaining with this project, and they also are included in the scenic corridor review too with cross-access. They're doing the cross-access properly, but we need an agreement from the adjacent property owner, which we have not received. We met with them to discuss the recreation component for the VMU zoning. So at this time, those are the only outstanding comments for this project.
The engineering comments have been satisfied?
I take that back. Didn't receive any engineering comments, so those as of right now are still outstanding.
Is this re-review engineering comments or the February 7 engineering comments?
Well, it's the original comments, but they have since resubmitted. We just haven't gotten any comments back yet from Dewberry.
Okay. So we got compensatory storage and other stormwater questions.
Well, those have been worked out with Haley. I mean, Haley has signed off that the floodplain is compliant. So I know those have been resolved. The other engineering comments, I do not know. And of course, we don't have the transportation, but I'm sure there'll be a proportionate fair share requirement.
Okay, those have been resolved. That was like the biggest items. Pretty straightforward. Any other questions for Tim? From anyone?
Thank you.
We'll hear from the applicant.
Morning, Sean Humphrey, Emerald Coast Associates, HUMPHREY. I haven't received any further comments for engineering. Briefly, we have responded to all the comments. I've added a manhole between inlets 1 and 2 to alleviate that impact to the wetlands. The drainage easement, we're in the process of obtaining that, but that shouldn't be an issue. Updated detail, compensatory storage was just a routing issue of how the flood water will get into the pond. There was just a rational method analysis for the amount of water going from our site into the pond. That's greater than what the pre-development rate is. Everything else was very minor. We are in the process of having our landscape architect update his plan to beautify or improve the park, the picnic area. And we have also added sidewalks to create cross-access connection for that ACE development down to Highway 98 and across over to our Move It storage. So a portion of that sidewalk is in the easement along Public's access way. There is a portion on the ACE parcel that we'll have to get an agreement with them. But that shouldn't be an issue either.
I don't see anything that can be worked out on any of these.
We just request to be continued or move forward to DRB for the, I believe, May meeting.
There are some outstanding items for DRB related to the cross-access agreement.
And we're in process of getting that agreement.
Expect we'd have time to get those taken care of before May DRB,
We should be able to, yes.
provided we're not going tomorrow.
Unless we can go tomorrow. But no,
We're in
May.
conversations with Mr. Cat.
Okay. I don't have any concern about conditionally moving this forward to TRB, subject to satisfaction outstanding comments, unless someone else does.
Oh, I agree. That one of my main concerns was the drainage easement for the discharge pipe, and I think, as stated, that's being worked out. So the other ones are just detail revisions and some clarification. So I don't see anything that'll hold it up either.
Okay. Then we'll entertain a motion to conditionally move this forward to Design Review Board, subject to satisfaction of all outstanding comments.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. We'll take just a moment to ask, I don't think I did this yet. Anybody in the audience wish to make a technical comment or ask a technical question about this application? See none. We have a motion and a second at the dais. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to Design Review Board. And that will move us to number 22, the Emerald Bay rezoning. This rezoning is reviewed by Kelly Schultz. Kelly, if you could introduce it for us.
Yes, sir. This is a request to approve by ordinance, project number REZ 22-000003. It is a rezoning application that was submitted by Comprene Engineering LLC on behalf of Emerald Bay Commercial 09 LLC, requesting to rezone the property from coastal center to coastal center mixed use with a future land use of mixed use on a parcel that's 5.02 acres in size. The property is located in District 4. It's located on the north side of US Highway 98, approximately 4/10 of a mile from Emerald Bay Drive. It's identified by the parcel number that's in your packet. The applicant has stated that the reason for the rezoning request basically comes down to the fact that the current zoning district does not allow for fast food, or as they call them, quick serve restaurants. The plan is that there will be 2 of those, and then also there will be a 15,000 square foot general commercial retail shop portion of the project. I do need to draw your attention to what would be, notice these don't have page numbers, but page number 6 under letter G, infrastructure analysis. Number 5, recreation. This was a typo that does not require the recreational component because there is no residential development involved with this request. Water sewer is available, and preliminary projections state some concerns over the actual capacity of the road system, but that will be reviewed in greater detail during the development order review phase. To date, we have received 1 comment from the public that was actually received yesterday. I believe that those of you who have the digital form have that in your report, and those with paper should have a paper copy. It comes from Mr. Jim McDowell, and in a nutshell, he's in support of the request. That is the only public comment that has been received to date. Would like to ask the staff report and the additional comment be entered into record.
So entered.
Unless you have questions for me, I believe our applicant is here and ready to take questions.
The only public comment request, or the only public comment we have is this one in support of it?
Yes, sir, in support of, and I've not received any other phone calls, and inquiries, emails, written correspondence. That is the only public comment to date.
Is this parcel within the Emerald Bay DRI? Or is it outside of that?
I believe it is outside of that. Now, I would have to verify.
It's outside. Okay. Just in the DRI neighborhood. Any other questions for Kelly? Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
We'll hear from the applicant.
Morning, everybody. Stephen Tate. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. Applicant is Emerald Bay Development. They are associated with the entity that did the DRI originally. As Ms. Schultz said, she did a very good job summarizing everything. The only thing I would point out is that the proposed development right now is for 2 fast food restaurants and a phase 1. So there would be a DO for that. And then a phase 2 DO pulled for what is right now planned to be 15,000 square feet of retail. It could change to something else that meets the code, but it would be retail office space as planned at the moment. Aside from that, she's right. The eastbound lane of 98 is currently 74 trips deficient. So we would have to pay in proportionate fair share for that. All in all, though, there are only 35 eastbound trips, 35 westbound trips on 98, so a total of 70 trips total PM peak hour produced by the entire project once it's built out, not just the 2 fast food restaurants, but also including the 15,000 square feet. And of course, that'll be addressed maybe differently if phase 2 changes to something else. That DO would incorporate that at that time. No wetlands on the property. So we don't have any issues there like some of the others. So we are requesting the change from coastal center to coastal center mixed use. 1, so that we can have drive-through, the 2 drive-through restaurants. Also, this didn't come up in pre-app. I just happened to stumble on it when I was reading the Land Development Code regulations. Coastal Center actually requires any parcel over 5 acres that's being developed to include a residential component. Obviously, I don't think anybody thinks that this area of Highway 98 is very conducive for a residential use. If it was anything, it'd be an apartment, and we know how that's going right now with apartments. So,
Right next door.
yeah. But I'm glad Mr. McDowell did write a letter in favor of this particular project. I think that goes a long ways. So we've had no other negative feedback up to this point. I have spoken with other constituents in the area, one of which was here earlier today, and do not have any objections to the change. That could change when we get to development order stage, but to the actual zoning change, we're in good shape, I believe.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else have any questions for Stephen?
All right, thank you.
Thanks. We'll take just a moment to see if we have anyone with a technical question in our audience this morning. Anyone with a technical question about this particular application? Seeing none, we'll entertain a recommended motion.
Staff would just recommend that the request be moved forward to the Planning Commission at this time.
Thank you. They met all the requirements for the submittal of a zoning change application.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Based on the completeness review, I make a motion, we move this forward.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Likewise? This item is approved to move forward to Planning Commission. Thank you very much, and that will move us to number 23, the US 331 Apartments. This is a major development reviewed by Stephen Shawn. Stephen, if you could introduce it for us.
Yes, sir. Before I do that, the applicant expressed to me this morning that he thought it was going to be continued based on an earlier conversation that I had, and I neglected to continue it. So I was going to just bring that up to the board to provide me direction as to continue it or make that request, or if the board would like to hear at least introduced at this time.
I think there were going to be some modifications to building size, which might affect site plan. Yeah, we can briefly talk about it.
I'm Scott Jenkins with Jenkins Engineering, and yes, we have gotten a number of comments that we're addressing. I don't see any issue with addressing them, but I don't think we've received all our comments yet, so we're fine with the continuance if staff feels like it should be necessary.
Okay. We're happy to continue it. What would be our recommended continuance date?
The first meeting in May.
Which is May 2nd, May 4th? May 4th, okay. We will entertain a motion to continue this item to May 4th to allow the technical review to be finished up.
I will make a motion to continue to the May 4th, 2022 TRC meeting at 8:30 a.m. in this location.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion to continue to the May 4th TRC meeting. Do we have a second? I'll second that. We have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Hearing none, the US 331 apartment application is continued to the May 4th, 2022 TRC meeting at 8:30 a.m. in this location. Thank you.
Question.
I'm the adjacent property.
Yes, sir. You want to come forward?
Right next door to me, and right now it's causing flooding issues. And I just wanted to address that. So do I need to come to the next meeting to address that?
You may want to talk to the applicant, this engineer right here. I'm sure he'd be happy to address those concerns. We can get it from, you can get it from the applicant.
Record, should we have gotten his name?
Normally, we would, yes.
Do we know where that road is now that you brought it up?
Within this development site, probably the one off 331. I know they had cut some roads in there just to do the geotech.
Right.
I don't know if that's what he's talking about or not.
He said he lives directly to the north, so maybe it's one of those skinnier commercial pieces.
Would have to be one of the parcels off of Chat Holly,
Oh, the bigger, okay.
those bigger ones. I expect that'll get worked out, or he'll have the opportunity to talk to us again. And we already took care of voting on the continuance on this one, so we're, I expect Scott Jenkins will address whatever concern he has. We're moving to agenda number 24, the Dollar General Market. This is a minor development review by Tim Brown. Tim, if you could introduce it for us.
Yes, thank you. This is a minor development order application submitted by Jade Consulting LLC on behalf of HSC Definiak Springs, requesting approval to construct a 12,480 square foot commercial building and associated infrastructure on 2.79 acres with the future land use of commercial and a zoning of general commercial. Property is located in District 3 on the north side of Highway 90 West, right next to the existing Dollar General store. So we have outstanding comments from planning, Public Works, did not receive any engineering comments, did not receive any health department comments. I believe this is going to require a septic tank. We've got outstanding comment from floodplain, environmental, and those are their outstanding comments. I'd like to enter the staff report in the record, please.
So entered. This parcel has a split land use?
Yes, I don't know if that's an error or not, but according to the GIS map, it's split. There's a small strip along the northern property line that's, and I should have mentioned that it's not in the ad because I didn't pick up on it until I was reviewing the project, but there's a strip along the northern property that's rural residential. They're not building into that area. They're putting their landscape buffer in that area, but it is commercial and rural residential and general commercial and rural residential.
I'm thinking this may be an error because I recall us doing this general commercial land use change 10 years ago, and it was the entire parcel.
That's what I thought as well, but typically in these, I didn't talk to MIS, but typically they'll say, well, it's, the map's right. Prove that it's not right.
Well, we did have a legal description that was. Let's do a little more work on this, on the map issue.
Okay.
I don't think that's the way that was intended to be when we did the land use change for the entire parcel.
I don't either. I think it was meant to follow the property line.
Dollar General, I think, was the use proposed when we did the land use change.
It is, that's the building next to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
I wasn't involved in the zoning change, but we should have an ordinance with the legal description.
I'm just still kind of amazed that a lease dispute is resulting in a new building of the same nature being constructed immediately adjacent to the old building.
Not even that much larger either. It is a little bit larger than the existing Dollar General, but it's more or less so pretty much the same building.
Well, we're not dealing with the land use change now. Let's double check that on that little sliver, because I think that whole parcel was intended to be general commercial. Maybe there's some kind of deed overlap or something.
I'll see if I can get Jan to find that ordinance. Adopted the zoning change.
Did anyone else have a question for Tim related to the?
We have issued a septic permit for this already applied.
Well, one of my comments was for them to provide documentation for that.
And just some clarity on the engineering review, we've completed it. It was emailed probably yesterday. And I didn't have any issues with the stormwater, traffic or site layout, et cetera. So all comments have been addressed.
Is there any proportionate fair share on Highway 90?
No proportionate fair share on Highway 90.
I didn't think there would be, but I wasn't sure.
But that letter was provided also.
I didn't see it.
5 o'clock this morning.
The applicant here this morning? Thank you, Tim.
Morning, Michael Frieden with Jade Consulting. Morning. As Tim stated, it's 12,480 square foot building. It's actually going to be replacing the existing Dollar General. And it's a little higher end Dollar General. Provides, and Linda can kind of speak to that, but it provides fresh foods and things like that. So, and as far as, just touch on a couple things, we did get the DOT access permits and drainage permits approved. We've got the septic submitted, and now I understand it's approved. Then there was a couple items that we want to discuss as far as the cross access goes. In the comments, it said it's required for the adjacent property to the west. However, that property is zoned rural residential with a future land use of rural residential. So is it possible to get a waiver on that cross access?
We'll take a look at that.
And our stormwater impedes on that as well, so.
What I was gonna say, if they were to do that, we'd have to come back with a redesign on the stormwater pond.
That's designed to a 100-year storm, so. And we can't, there's also a restrictive covenant on the north side, basically 200 feet from the center line of 90 that we can't develop in. So the site is constrained to basically what this site layout we have.
I mean, it's a restrictive covenant in favor of who?
In favor of not developing where that north strip is. There's a restrictive covenant that says there's no development allowed in that north strip. So we're showing that 200-foot offset there. Right.
Yeah, let me take a look at that, just for fun.
That line looks eerily similar to the GIS map.
Yes.
Where the commercial and rural residential uses are shown. That's probably why the map is the way it is.
It very well may be. Let's submit that to the portal if you would, if we don't already have that.
As far as the landscape comments go, it's my understanding that the landscape plan was overlooked, so those comments are being reviewed now.
Do you think you've addressed those in the prior submittal?
We would need to double check. I believe we need to adjust the buffer on the west side. I think we were showing the building setback, but we weren't showing a 20-foot buffer. So we'll need to update the plans on that. But other than that, I believe everything has been addressed. We'll verify with our landscape consultant.
Okay.
Other than that, I think our biggest question was if we need to come back to the board or if we address these comments, is it still staff?
Well, this is a minor development. It will not be going to planning commissioner or board of county commissioner. Once we satisfy the comments, we'll go straight to development order. We'll take just a moment to invite any comments from anybody in the audience that, since this is a minor development. I don't know that we have anyone that wishes to speak on this, but we're going to take just a moment and ask that question. Anyone in our audience wish to offer a comment or have a technical question, or actually any kind of question on this particular development? And I don't think we have any hands up, so we'll move past that portion of the review, and we'll entertain a recommended motion from Tim.
I would like one point of clarification. Immediately north, well, there's two lots there. The easternmost lot immediately north of this has some kind of a tower. I don't know if it's a cell tower or what, but it's being assessed by the property appraiser as vacant. So I was requiring the 20-foot buffer based on commercial next to residential. But if that parcel is considered vacant, they could do the type B 15-foot buffer for that parcel, but the parcel to the west, there's a mobile home on that parcel, so it has to be 20 feet there because it's commercial next to residential.
And likely the use of that, since it is rural residential, is going to be residential, we need to require a buffer.
Okay, so my comment was a 20-foot landscape buffer. So
They can accommodate that in that no development portion, I think.
yeah, I mean,
Talking about landscape.
I think it's about a 20-foot strip there. That's the rural residential, and that's where they're putting their buffer.
Yeah, I think that's where the 20 feet is.
So, I mean, there's a number of comments, but I don't know there's any deal-breaking comments. Do we want to move it forward?
I think these comments can be addressed at staff level.
Okay, then my recommended motion would be to approve it and move it forward to the development order.
Subject to satisfaction of all outstanding comments.
Yes.
We have recommended motion. Do we have motion of the dais?
Motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is approved to move forward to development order, subject to satisfaction of all outstanding comments. Thank you, sir. And ma'am. Thank you, Tim. This will move us to number 25, the Alice Beach Phase 3, Block A, B, and YY.
Yes, thank you. This is a minor development or application submitted by Interlight Engineering on behalf of EBSCO Gulf Coast Development, requesting approval to develop 18 single-family lots and associated infrastructure in blocks A, B, and YY of the Alice Beach PUD on 2.85 acres with a future land use and of mixed use and a zoning of traditional neighborhood development. The property is located in District 5 on the south side of County Road 30A. So there's some outstanding minor planning comments. We have a comment from Public Works. Did not receive any engineering comments. Did not receive any comments from the Health Department, but we know there's central water and sewer along 30A. And we've got an outstanding comment from GIS pertaining to the road name. With that, I'd like to enter the staff report into the record, and I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you, Tim, and so entered.
So this does abut right up to the property line, and it abuts up to the southern part of Kaya. And that was the gist of Anna's comment from Public Works.
like they're gonna run out of a place to park the laydown yard.
Yeah, they're gonna have to move that lay down yard somewhere else, because that's currently what it's being utilized for.
And this is this the final development parcel adjacent to Kaya to the west, or is there one more in between this one and what appears to be developed?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, there is a parcel in between there. I'm not sure if they're going to develop that in the future or not. I haven't gotten any clarification on that, but there is some property between the two.
It looks like 3 lots. We can have the applicant share that, the future plan with us.
Yeah, it looks like they're doing 11 lots in YY and 7 lots in AB is the breakdown for 18 total.
I would like to just take the opportunity to recognize the treatment of the construction fence that Alice Beach has done, where you don't recognize it as a construction fence. You recognize it as a tall hedge. And that should be recognized as in keeping with the 30A scenic corridor and the efforts to make sure the corridor is as pleasing as we would all like it to be. So thank you very much for what you do with regard to construction fencing. Did we have any other questions for Tim on this particular application?
Mr. Chair, I did not get a chance to review this one, but typically with these Alice Beach phases, if you will, the stormwater infrastructures in a lot of cases is already in place. I haven't looked at this one to see what's the deal there. And then they do a drawdown on units and that sort of thing, so the traffic is relatively straightforward. So
We also have a community development district underneath this one that takes financial responsibility for the water and sewer and other infrastructure too. So there are lots of controls for the county already in place in this particular development, and these have become fairly routine over the last 15 years. We know what to expect. We get some good information from the applicant, and by and large, most of the time, all the infrastructure is already in place and is maintained by someone other than the county. I guess we'll take a few moments to hear from the applicant.
Morning, Ryan Price with Interlight Engineering, PRICE. As you said, it's another Alice Beach block, but we still take it each block, each little section with as much detail and attention as possible. We did see all the comments with the exception of the engineering, but we believe that these are all minor issues. We have been in communication with Public Works about some of theirs, but disregarding all that, I believe that this is a pretty straightforward block as well, and I'll be able to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, sir. We'd like to know that we've got a very detailed PUD document and urban code that replaces a good portion of the county's land development code with regard to development internal to this particular development. And that urban code has achieved some tremendous real estate values in the center of our county, and we appreciate that. Anyone else have a question on this particular application?
Mr. Price, I don't know if you got my comments, but we can talk offline. I've been on. I guess I've been on.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was not on. We can talk offline regarding the access width requirements.
Correct. The one road, I believe it's in AB, yeah. And that was, spoke with the design engineer yesterday, and that shouldn't be a problem to widen that back out.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I don't see anything in here that would require us to see this as a group again, subject to satisfaction of the individual outstanding comments. Unless, are you comfortable with that?
I am comfortable with that. I was gonna leave it up to you, but I feel that these blocks, like he said, are very detailed and a lot of the infrastructure is in place already. And I don't see an issue with moving forward with this subject to satisfactory, addressing all the comments satisfactory. And so with that, I will make a motion to approve, subject to addressing all outstanding comments.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Conditionally approve this and move it forward to development order, subject to satisfaction of all outstanding comments. We'll take just one moment. Anyone in the audience have a question about this particular application? Seeing none, we have a motion of the dais. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to development order, subject to satisfaction of all outstanding comments. Thanks, sir. This will move us to number 26, the Kaya PUD amendment. It's been reviewed by Bob Baranti. Bob, if you could introduce it for us.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is project number MAJ 22-000006. It's a major development application submitted by Jenkins Engineering on behalf of SBG-PR LLC, requesting to amend the Kaya master plan to add an additional 0.63 plus or minus acres for habitat preservation and buffering to make a total of 27.05 plus or minus acres with a future land use of mixed use and a zoning district of traditional neighborhood. The property is located in District 3 and the parcel numbers are identified in your staff report. Mr. Chair, there's just some minor comments. I'd just like to go on the record, even though the ad says that, the Barb says it, this will not increase density. This is going to increase preservation and buffering. To the total project. There are some, Haley has, or environmental has some comments, and planning has some comments. And I haven't received anything from South Walton Fire yet. I don't see there being a problem due to the nature of this. May I enter the staff report in the record?
So entered.
And do you have any questions for me before I turn it over to the agent?
Yeah, where is it? What are we adding and on the site?
The agent will answer.
Maybe the agent can more that.
Good morning, Scott Jenkins with Jenkins Engineering. Thank you. I agree with Bob. We did get a few comments from planning and environmental. We resubmitted that information today to address those comments. I feel like they were pretty minor. Basically, the area that's being added is the sliver of property that used to be between the Watersound Parkway South and the Kaya property. So they were able to buy that kind of narrow pie-shaped piece there, and they're going to just leave it as preservation in its natural state just to increase the buffer off of the roadway. There's no changes to intensities, roadways, stormwater, any of the infrastructure in the project at all. So it's really just to add that, and it changed the boundary.
Yeah, it's pointing right to that. I recall which one it is now. So thank you for reminding me about that. And I would like to, on behalf of the county, thank you for adding to the preservation.
No problem. And I did want to have one point of clarification. The green construction fencing is actually Kaya's, so Alice Beach doesn't get to take credit for that. So, but
well, and I would like to make a similar comment since I complimented Alice Beach. I think Kaya may have stepped up a little bit.
We have to when the next Alice Beach.
I mean, y'all are right down the street, and you saw what they did, and you've improved upon it, and we appreciate that also. That's a tremendous benefit to the community when we got a construction site in the scenic corridor, and hiding the construction fence in that manner is absolutely to be applauded, and we recommend that everybody copy what you do, if you don't mind, because it does make it much more pleasant during the construction phase. Anyone have a comment or question about this particular application? No new development, we're just adding some additional preservation to enhance the site. And I don't think we have any audience members that aren't participants in the meeting this morning left that might have a comment, unless Rick's got one. I have to see you, man. Then Bob will we'll take your staff report into the record, and we will entertain a recommended motion.
Make a motion to conditionally approve upon resubmittal, which the applicant said he resubmitted today. I'll get that out for review today, and pending successful completion of all comments, to move to the development order stage. Or, I'm sorry, move to Planning Commission for their public hearing.
Thank you, Bob. We have recommended motion. Do we have a motion of the dais?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Likewise. Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to the Planning Commission. Thank you, Bob. Gentlemen, and we'll move to number 27, the Hunter's Run entry and gate revision. Minor development, also reviewed by Bob Bronte.
Mr. Chair, I had a co-reviewer, and she's going to present the project to you.
Good morning. If you can state your last name and spell it for the record.
Good morning. My last name is Bacon, B-A-C-O-N. I'll be presenting Hunter's Run Entry and Gateway Revision. This is a minor development application submitted by Emerald Coast Associates on the behalf of Hunter Run's Crossing Homeowners Association, requesting to add a gate, divided median, and wall within the common area of 1.32 acres with a future land use of conservation residential and a zoning district of conservation residential 2 units per 1 acre. May I enter this staff report into the record?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. There are a few standing comments from the report. Public Works has some comments, Environmental Planner has some comments, and Planning Department has some comments. You can see them there. There are minor comments. We need some dimensions on the getaway, the gate setbacks. Public comments, Public Works, main thing is they have to add the sidewalk, and also that Public Works will not maintain the brick pavers that they are proposing to add to the county right-of-way. So they either will change that or keep it, and then they have to maintain those pavers. And other few environmental comments. So if you guys have any questions for me or for the applicant.
I don't have any. Thank you very much. Very good presentation. Anyone have any questions for Ms. Bacon?
So the staff recommend to conditionally approve this project pending successful submittal of the project.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll take a moment and hear from the applicant.
Morning, Dean Burgess with Emerald Coast Associates. We've read through the staff report and don't have any issues or concerns with the comments. We should be able to answer them in short order. There was one comment about a landscape plan. What particularly were we looking for in a landscape plan? I think that came from environmental. Was that yours, Haley? Okay. Okay, out along Musset Bayou Road?
Yes.
Okay. Sure, we can include a landscape plan with our submittal. Other than that, didn't have any questions or concerns with the comments.
Any questions for the applicant? I have none. Thank you, sir. I think we'll move forward with a recommended motion, which we've already had. Recommended motion is to move forward to development order, subject to satisfaction of any outstanding comments.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to development order, subject to satisfaction of any outstanding comments. And thank you very much. And thank you, Ubi. Welcome to TRC. Thank you, Bob. And I don't think we have any other business this morning. That's the end of our agenda. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you very much. And we got 10 minutes of morning.